What's going on, everybody? I'm the Benefactor, an independent researcher looking into various fringe areas of science. And as you all know, I have a research assistant named Lenny. His real name is Lenr-Bot, and he is actually an actual website you can go to and that I use for my research inquiries. And today I will be teaching you how to properly use Lenr-Bot for your research inquiries, or if you're just, curious and have questions about some of the topics that we discuss on the show. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Lenny.
Hello everyone, welcome to Beneficence TV Live.
Well, don't be shy, Lenny. Introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm Lenr-Bot. Benefactor likes to call me Lenny, but my name stands for Low Energy Nuclear Reactions. I'm a live chatbot that you can access right now for free, courtesy of affiliates of the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. I have been trained with countless amounts of data and can give you explanations and breakdowns along with timestamp links to specific videos that are relevant to your inquiries. Topics such as cold fusion, plasmoids, sacred geometry and more. I have proven myself invaluable to Benefactor's research and hope to chat with you all soon.
Oh, thanks, Lenny. So let's go into Lenr-Bot's actual website and we'll show you how to use them. Bring Lenr-Bot up here, and I'll put it in the chat as well. There we go. All right, so this is Lenr-Bot. It's lenr-bot.com. Let me put that in the chat for y'all. So Lenr-Bot is courtesy of some anonymous people affiliated with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project community. And it is an actual chatbot that you can use for free for your research in different areas of fringe science. The Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project Discord community provided me with this information, and they have been invaluable to some of my research into the rodent coil and other areas of fringe science. So let's jump right in and show you exactly how to use Lenr-Bot. So right up in the top here, you can enter your inquiry. So say you have a question on zero-point energy. What is zero-point energy? And as you can see, it immediately populated with a bunch of data, and I know this isn't easy for anybody new to this website, but we're going to break down what exactly it gave us. So right here, it's linking us immediately to different timestamp videos on YouTube and different videos on ecatworld.com. And these are specifically timestamps to parts of videos that are relevant to your inquiry, which is really cool. So let's see, we got the Hutchinson effect. So we're going to go click on the Hutchinson effect.
Black holes during cold fusion experiments, they can...
And immediately you see we get a timestamp for one of Bob's videos, because you know he has hundreds and hundreds of hours of videos and it's hard to sort through it all. This is the key. So we have here, like I can see on the screen, it's pulling up a part where he's reading about zero-point energy right now. Zero-point energy is a better energy source than gravitational energy. So
can realize the zero-point energy of the vacuum, but a black hole evaporates by absorbing particles with negative energy. This means that the energy actually comes from the mass of the black hole. this cannot be said to be a zero-point energy of the vacuum. Zero-point energy is better energy resource than gravitational energy. It cannot be denied yet that zero-point.
Now, regarding your specific inquiries, it might be hit or miss. You know, it might be completely relevant. It might be slightly relevant. That area is a hit or miss area. But if we go back to Lenr-Bot, we can always summarize with AI your answer. So here we have summarize with AI at the top. Here's a button right here. We'll click it. And what that's going to do is give you a summary like any other chatbot is going to chat with you. Open up your little chat window here, and as you can see, zero-point energy refers to the lowest possible energy that a quantum mechanical physical system may have. It is the energy that a quantum mechanical system possesses, even at the lowest possible temperature, 0 Kelvin. The concept is often discussed in the context of vacuum fluctuations and exotic vacuum objects, which are hypothetical phenomena that could potentially harness this energy. It is theoretically calculated to have limitless energy, but capturing and utilizing this energy remains a subject of theoretical and experimental investigation. So as you can see, we immediately get an amazing answer from our chat AI. Thank you, Lenny. Let's thank Lenny for all our inquiries. Awesome. So this method has been utilized by me and others in the research circles to better organize some of the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project's hundreds of hours of research and discoveries. And Bob Greenyer himself has wonderful breakdowns of some of this fringe science, which I like to delve into. And this is just a better way of organizing it. And also, it does give you links, when possible, to any reference material outside of YouTube. So let's go in with another common question that a lot of people have. What is the thunderstorm generator? Let's be a little more specific. Let's say, what is Malcolm Bendel's thunderstorm generator? All right, so we get a population of Thor magnetic anomalies and O-Day video clips. Let's click the first one here.
How to open your car door while submerged underwater.
Because what I'm going to show you in this next part of the video, this analysis here, could be the key, or potentially is one of the main ways in which the thunderstorm generator is actually doing its work. Now, if you look through the first video, Malcolm says that he took that 8-year-old device and he put it on the generator that's in the workshop there, and it seemed to do some of the remediation, the sort of lowering of carbon monoxide and carbon and increase in oxygen, without anything other than just the thunderstorm generator on there. The implication is that there's something embedded into parts of that metallic work that is potentially playing a role. Now,
Bum, bum, bum. Spoiler alert, it's plasmoid clusters, or Ken Shoulders charged clusters. EVOs, exotic vacuum objects. So we have a pretty good timestamp video of some summaries of what the thunderstorm generator is. It's not perfect, so if you are looking for a more simplified answer, I would suggest that you go to the Summarize with AI feature. And as you can see, we click that magical button, and immediately we get an answer from Lenny. Malcolm Bendel's thunderstorm generator is a device that is being analyzed and tested by the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project in collaboration with various individuals, such as Jordan Collin from Alchemical Science. Great channel. Subscribe now. The project aims to assess the validity and potential uses of the generator, which involves methods such as UV ionization and high energy particles to create charged clusters, and potentially produce ball lightning. The project is working on replicating and testing the thunderstorm generator to gain insight into its function. And at this point, it's all been verified. We are just trying to get the generator out to more labs to try and have more independent verification to just add more proof that this thing actually works. Now, regarding Lenr-Bot, it's not perfect, again, but this is way more advanced than the earlier versions, and it is almost flawless. It's beautiful. So, and if you ever have problems with Lenr-Bot, just reach out to me, and I'll reach out to the site admin. Sometimes there's glitches and stuff like that, but generally speaking, the system should be the website should be stable from now on. You shouldn't have any problems. We were having fluctuations in the service for a little bit there, but let's try a different question. Hey, what's going on, Nathan? So if you're just joining us, we're explaining, or I'm explaining how to use Lenr-Bot. And Lenr-Bot has been invaluable to some of my research in some of these different fringe areas that normal chatbots they fight you, right? They fight you on stuff. Like when you're researching, like for instance, I have a system that outputs more energy than it takes in. I have empirical evidence. I'm trying to study why it's doing it. We know it's doing it. And then I go to something like ChatGPT and I'm asking it, and it's like, well, that's impossible. And I don't get any kind of real answer or insight into what's going on. This is the answer. This chatbot will give you, and it's not perfect again, but it will give you insights and link you to different areas of the internet that will be invaluable to your research. And I'm sure that it will prove itself invaluable in time as more people get to use it and it gets more attention. But for now, we're just gonna, if anybody has any questions that I'd like to, demonstrate the chatbot with, just put them in the chat and I'll ask them. But for now, we'll go with what is the Graviflyer? See if it has any information on that. Gravity transformer. Let's see what it gave us.
When you have these woke revolutions, it requires
no. Okay.
Produce these magnetic rotors in local zones. Okay, he's exactly saying what it is. This is able to pull this material in, and then you need a certain amount of these things in the center of your electromagnetic phantom to produce the strange radiation, the string vortex solitons that can fly out and that are neutral. They may be the same thing, but I actually think it's the thing in the center, because we see from these vortical structures in the various experiments we've been looking at today, that something really special happens in the center. So I'm showing you an ultrasonic system. This ultrasonic system is able to produce this strange radiation that can be observed at a distance. It was also observed in exploding titanium foils. I guess it was immediately producing HHO. You get
So, as I was saying before, as you can see, it's a hit or miss. You might have to be more specific. Let's try, what's Alexi's Graviflyer? Or what's Alexi's last name? Nathan, what's Alexi's last name? We'll put it in the chat bot and see if we get any more specific information. Let's go to the Summarize AI and see what it gave us. All right, so you can see at the top, we're going to summarize our question's answer with AI. All right, Lenny, what do you got for us? The Graviflyer seems to be a concept or device related to gravitational or anti-gravity effects, potentially involving the production of gravitational waves and the manipulation of materials using Magnetic rotors. Oh, that's a mouthful. It may also relate to the structure of ball lightning, monopoles, and the acceleration of galaxies. Additionally, it could potentially involve the concept of quantum foam and the formation of a self-feeding loop. The device seems to be associated with the ability to fly and may have connections to ancient symbols and drawings. I don't know. That's a new one to me if that's true. Nathan would know more about that. It is also mentioned in the context of theoretical physics and the study of gravity. Interesting. So that's what it gave us. It's okay. It gave us a pretty decent answer considering it doesn't know specifically what Graviflyer we're talking about. We're talking about Alexi's. I could put Alexi in, and we'll see what it happens. Just the first name. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Oh, there's his last name. Okay, cool. I'll just copy and paste that there because I can't spell. All right. We might have to refresh it. Summarize with AI. Alexei Cherkurkov is not mentioned in the context provided. So, as you can see, it doesn't have any information on Alexei Cherkurkov's, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Alexei's Graviflyer. But it did give us a pretty interesting summary in the context of everything else in its database about anti-gravitics and what it assumes, or maybe it has mentions of different Graviflyers or anti-gravitic devices. Nathan says, it is better classified as a field generator that produces an energy vortex to fly without normal propulsion. Okay, yeah, let's put that in. I'm just going to copy that, Nathan, and put it right in the chat and see what it feeds us back. Based on the context provided, there's no information about a specific field generator that produces energy vortex. Okay, so we're going to restart, okay? It might have got confused with Alexei Cherkurkov, which is not a common name by any means unless you are within esoteric circles of science. So let us refresh, and we're going to put that back in the chat. And then we're going to paste Nathan's response and see what it gives us. Based on the context provided, it seems the term Graviflyer may be associated with theories and concepts related to gravity, magnetic fields, and anti-gravity effects. However, specific classification of Graviflyer as a field generator for producing energy vortexes to enable flight without normal propulsion is not explicitly addressed. It might be helpful to explore specific theories or technologies. Okay, so it's not really giving us anything useful for that either. We might have to delve into some different areas of science that surround the Graviflyer and work our way from there to see a breakdown of some of the different areas of science that have been explored regarding anti-gravity and how it relates to the Graviflyer. The point is, we've all had roadblocks in our research, right? I've had them, Nathan's had them, everybody's had them, and my goal here is to just explain how Lenr-Bot works to hopefully maybe pave a way through some of those roadblocks and help everybody understand a little bit, including myself. So this chatbot is invaluable to some of my research. It's helped me explain things to people and myself. So let us try something different here. Let's try a different question. Let's try devices, anti-gravity devices. Oh, try Bedini. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's try Bedini. That's a good one. Okay. Who is John Bedini? Global Breakthrough Energy Movement Overview. Oh, interesting. Look what it gave us.
MS-13 gang member.
Oh boy.
Construct, you know, right the way down to the engineering diagrams and knowing precisely which elements were used and all of their relative distances and stuff. The end of that is just wonderful. But you know, there was one of the presenters there, I forget his name now, but he was talking about going to New Zealand and meeting Bedini, John Bedini, and he was standing there. He did this video in the 80s or whatever it was,
Hey.
and there's the Bedini motor there, and it's sitting there at his feet. And now he wants to find out where it is because he has these rumors that one bit went over here, another bit went over here, and you know, could he construct it? Could he get it working? I don't know. But here we have an opportunity.
Let us just take a moment to thank Lenny for his services here. This is an amazing job. He's clipped us with something completely relevant. John Bedini, right here in context. Dark energy. Yeah, let's try dark energy. Well, let's sum up with AI first and see what the AI has to see about John Bedini and what it gives us first. And then we'll move on to some dark energy. Okay, so we need to be more specific. The creator of the Bedini motor and school girl circuit. All right, here we go. So we just needed to add a little bit more specifics to our inquiry, and then we get a decent answer. John Bedini is an inventor known for his work on the Bedini motor and the schoolgirl circuit. He collaborated with other individuals such as John Hutchison, Alex Pizarro, in trying to understand the scientific background of their inventions. His work involved extensive engineering diagrams and experiments with various elements and distances to achieve over unity research. Additionally, John Hutchison was involved in replicating and analyzing John Bedini's work, and his innovations were studied by others in the field. That is really cool. Tesla Dark Energy. The volume is low in videos with... okay. That should be better. And what I can do is turn down the volume here.
Opportunity where there's a guy that has operated this device. He did work with Yul Brown. The device exists. It needs some love and attention, but it's all there and it's the end of the road. So
all right, so we're going to move on to some dark energy. Dark energy. And keep it simple for now. Yes, Lenr-Bot. You can access him now, right now, for free, and we're going over how to actually use him properly. It is amazing. And let us take a moment to thank these anonymous fellows associated with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project community and the Discord community, which was so helpful in hooking me up with all of this information, along with helping me with my own research in various areas. So we have our first timestamp link. Oh no, this isn't a timestamp. This is an actual article. Nice. So as you see, sometimes you'll find actual articles, or if something is actually been proofed by different researchers, you can find that information here as well. So this appears to be an article titled Electric Announcement, ECAT SKL to be presented in November following perfect test. I'm not sure what this has to do with dark energy. we have a comment here. Somebody maybe with some insight. I suspect that Evo is dark matter that produces dark energy, which is 95% of the substance that comprises the universe. As such, Evos produce the universe as we know it. That's not far off from what I suspect as well, and that's interesting. Let's ask the chatbot about that. We'll just copy it right into the chatbot because we don't want to say straight up that energy is this. We want to say we think, or this is our theory, giving the chatbot an understanding that this isn't, something that we think is 100%. Because other chatbots get confused and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's right," and just confirm anything that you say. For instance, one time on ChatGPT, it spat me out an answer that was clearly wrong, and I'm like, "No, this is what's right," and I was actually wrong too, and it said I was right. So, be careful with Chat AI. If something doesn't sound right, always double check it. All right, so it says here that dark energy is a concept related to the presence of positive vacuum energy in the universe, which is used to describe the accelerated expansion of the universe. Remember, my theory is we're on the south pole of the universe that's expanding, and there's a north pole that's contracting as well, kind of like a hyperdimensional toroid shape, which is basically a giant black hole. That's what it is. It is a mysterious force that makes up about 70% of the known universe. There are alternative explanations, but the description assuming dark energy is widely accepted. It is believed to be a reaction from the vacuum to compensate for the mass and energy being pulled out of it, possibly related to a multi-phase source of dynamic dark matter. The exact nature of dark energy and its origins are still not fully understood in the field of cosmology. Okay, so this is a really interesting answer. This gives me a little bit to think about regarding EVOs. So it says presence of positive vacuum energy. So what that tells me is that this somehow relates to exotic vacuum objects, which are, I believe Malcolm describes them as positively charged, and are good for life. Like positively charged is good for life, negatively charged is bad for life, or I could be wrong. It could be the opposite. But if it's positive is good, then this could be a definite link here. And it says it is believed to be a reaction from the vacuum to compensate for the mass and energy being pulled out of it. Remember, when you you have a incommensurability between space and counter space, right? When you expand space, you contract counter space, and counter space is just the vacuum energy, DC energy at rest. It's the ether, and it's like this super fluid. And when you disturb it, it creates these energy to mass conversions in the form of exotic vacuum objects. It's the simplest way I can sum it down. And these disturbances are what actually create, magnetic dipoles, what create magnetism, because you're spinning up the fluid ether, and when you spin it in certain ways, you create current in certain directions. And that current can pull or retract depending on opposing currents. My mic is still low. Hello? Is this better? Hello? That might be better. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. 3 4. Testing 1 2. I'm just going to drag this bar all the way up and see if that helps at all. All right, so as I was saying, it says it is believed to be a reaction from the vacuum to compensate for the mass and energy being pulled out of it. Now that, to me, screams an interaction between the incommensurability between space and counter space, right? You have space, and when space expands, counter space contracts, and vice versa. And in these different systems, that's what's going on a microscopic scale. You know, you're contracting or expanding space, which is creating a reaction in the vacuum, which is just basically DC energy at rest, the aether. You know, it's a superfluid, and it's also what creates magnetism. You know, you spin up this superfluid in a specific way, and it creates a current in a specific direction. And if you have some other kind of current in its vicinity, depending on the direction of that current, it's either going to attract or repel, right? That's essentially what creates magnetism. It is interaction and reaction, really, from the vacuum energy. It's very, very, very significant here. And as I was saying, this is the simplest way I can sum it up. The simplest way I can put it, we're just seeing reactions from the vacuum, the superfluid. All right, anybody have any other questions for Lenr-Bot?
Sir, you have an incoming chat from the Crypto Alchemist. Should I put it up on the screen?
Oh, cool. My mic is working, I guess, again. So I turned up the volume a little bit. It's really at its max. I don't know why it's still in the green. It should be in the yellow. But it is what it is. We'll deal with it for now, and I'll fix it later. As long as you can hear me. Yeah, it's rough out there, Crypto. It really is, man. And if there's anything I can do to help you, just let me know. Kind of in the similar boat. You know, there's not a lot of work. And, you know, I'm a certified construction technician, so, you know, when construction doesn't get a lot of work, you know, the economy's doing pretty bad. I think a lot of these big projects ran out of money. So I have some things that we didn't get to pull up from last Monday's Fringe Think Tank that I thought were interesting, and I'd like to check them out. There's a couple of videos here.
Originally, we...
All right, so this one is a video explaining a different way to understand electrons. And this one blew my mind, right? Because we're always trying to find different ways of visualizing things that we can't see. You know, we have to figure out how to visualize it in our heads so we can deconstruct it and understand it. And this just was remarkable. It's a very short clip, but I think everybody will find it enjoyable. So I'm going to pull it up.
Originally, we thought electrons orbit atoms like this. But if that were true, electrons would immediately radiate their energy and spiral to the center. So what we've discovered is that electrons don't really orbit anything. They just exist around the atom in a vibrational state. Let's say that this ring is an electron that surrounds the nucleus of an atom. But notice something here. I can increase the energy by turning up the frequency of vibration, but suddenly the resonance goes away and it just looks like a normal ring again. But then suddenly if I keep increasing it, then I get another standing wave. This time with more nodes. And then another higher mode here. What's happening here is exactly what Niels Bohr proposed is happening in an atom. The electron can only increase in energy with discrete intervals, just like in our ring experiment here. The ring doesn't vibrate unless I give it some specific energy input. So the energies of this ring and the energies of electrons are quantized. Originally we thought...
I thought that was really, really neat. I'm going to move on to our next video, which something that I kind of wanted to tap into a little bit more. We watched it briefly when we watched our, I did a live stream a while ago that we watched Randy's Donuts. And that's a short documentary on Randy Powell and his work mapping vortex math onto a torus shape for practical applications. And that's what you see with the Rodin coil and some of the Rodin coil designs. They're all based off of Randy Powell's work. Now, there was a short scene in this documentary that I want to go over real quick because it is a really neat circuit and it's used for capturing free energy from radio frequencies.
This information is not to be privatized or exclusively owned by any corporation or individual. Instead, it is our desire to create an open source project to freely share information with the public. This device is a version of what we call the ABHA Torus, developed by Daniel and Erica Nunez.
Hello everyone, this is Daniel Nunez with OneStopEnergies.com. Today I'm going to show you a free energy work in the progress. So let's check this out. We're using vortex coils today, and let's look up on the roof. That's an old antenna, and that old antenna is not being used because nobody uses that type of television antenna anymore. So what we're doing here is we're running that wire down from the antenna over down this way into our PoE Mini. And what's happening here is that we're collecting the energy from the antenna with this little simple circuit for rectifying radio wave signals.
Now, some of these clips or some of these diagrams go really fast, so I'm going to pause it. If anybody wants to actually try to replicate the circuit, I'm going to at some point, although it's going to be far down the line due to my lack of antenna. So, but this is the first circuit, and there's another circuit we're going to stop as well.
So what we're doing is we're collecting electricity.
You can see he burnt his circuit there, his breadboard, as I'm sure many of us have done. I haven't even received a donation this month. That makes it very hard to be inspired. Yeah, it does. Yeah. It's very discouraging, but don't get discouraged, crypto. Definitely don't get discouraged. You know, the algorithm is a tricky bee, but there are certain things that we can do, and especially with the popularity of these topics gaining traction in more mainstream circles on YouTube, especially. The more people that, you know, research these topics are going to be running into our content. And what we have to do right now is just make sure we help each other, share each other's channels and content as much as possible. As I've said many times before, even if, you know, like, because I've been skeptical on the concept of shadow banning. I'm sure it's possible, but to actually get definitive proof it's happening is probably virtually impossible. So, but it doesn't matter. If you go in the grassroots direction, you go and talk to people, you know, you get them interested in this stuff, and they can't, you know, they can't deny that, right? I mean, that it's a business after all. So, you know, you have individual people that you actually know going to your page, like, if I ask my sister to subscribe to my channel, I'm going to see that subscription, right? If she shares it with her friends, I'm going to see that. The shadow banning, if it's happening at all, it's coming in with the algorithm shares, which it would be a dang shame, but grassroots movements start from the bottom. They never start at the top, and it's discouraging at first, but you got to hang in there because, look, there's something that Professor Richard Wolff is a story he used to tell. And you know what? I'm just going to bring it up for you because I want to inspire you right now. I want to inspire you all. I'm going to bring up this video clip. Give me 1 second.
So let me start. A very famous and very effective political leader once responded to his fellow members of his movement who had complained that the mass of people that they were trying to organize was hard to organize. And people complained and were unhappy, but they didn't do anything. And decade after decade went by. And so he responded to them and he said, it's true. For decades, nothing happens. And then in a few weeks, decades happen. I think we're in a few weeks.
Welcome back.
So that is just a little bit of inspiration from Professor Richard Wolff. And if you don't know who Professor Richard Wolff is, I highly suggest you go to Democracy at Work and check out some of his content. He's really good at explaining economics to laymen like myself. Now, back to Randy's Donuts. Yes, he could be very inspirational. If you want to understand why our economic system is so effed up, I highly suggest you go over to Richard Wolff's channel, Democracy at Work. He's got amazing breakdowns of economic analysis, and it's not like the same old left versus right propaganda BS that we see in America. It is actual, tangible economic analysis that you can use to learn to understand why things are so effed up, why the material conditions of working class people continue to disintegrate. It's very fascinating. But back on track to Randy's Donuts. Let's go back to this rectifier circuit because this is very interesting.
Over here, so as I change the frequency, I'll be able to generate more power because right now I'm actually using less power. So resistance is all the way down. The coil is not resonating right now. So I'm able to charge up my little capacitors over here. So you're looking at the DC voltage, that's 1.9 volts. And that's charging up.
Yeah, I'm
those
sure
two
Crypto
little
saw the full
capacitors
video.
There.
This is just a clip of it.
And these are buffering capacitors, so those regulate the frequencies. The little black diodes, they force energy in one direction, so it creates a mandatory charge into those two capacitors. Now I have a different circuit. This is the same SEC circuit we've been running for pretty much majority.
Elijah Attack says, try to help others and God will help you. I completely agree 100%. If you try to, in earnest, just leave the world a little bit better off than you came into it and help others as much as you can, at least, that is the route to enlightenment. And God will help you, the universe, whatever you want to call it. The universe gives us signs. We have to follow those signs. We have to learn to recognize them. If we ignore them, we end up disoriented and in chaos. we have paths that the universe can set for us, and we choose to set ourselves down those paths or not.
Of our experiments, I've got
oh, this is the second diagram. You seen the video from the guest we have on Monday? No. Put it in chat, Nathan, and I'll pull it up. Oh, he's got it right there. Awesome. That's why I like Nathan. He's always prepared.
What? AAA auto insurance?
Uh-huh.
Mike Rogers.
Okay, so apparently this is a video for a guest we're having on our Fringe Think Tank podcast on this upcoming Monday. And that will be the 19th. Wow. Holy crap.
What you just
Somebody
saw
call
was a
911.
Death Star Tesla coil, brought to you by my good friend Sean.
Oh, that's Sean. Oh, massive shout out to Sean. Massive shout out. Sean Calderon. He is amazing. He's been a viewer of the channel recently, and we've been talking. This guy, if he made this, oh my God, I got some questions. Definitely cool. Definitely cool. Look at that. He said it was a...
What you just saw was a Death Star Tesla coil.
A Death Star Tesla coil. Wow. Okay, let's watch the video. It's 9 minutes. I'm just going to shut up.
Brought
Hey, what's up, Akabi? How you doing?
to you by my good friend Sean. He's been considering making a YouTube channel. I'd say let's make that a reality. I'll leave the link in the description for his...
Yeah, let's get him a YouTube channel. Dude, Sean, reach out to me if you have any need any help with creating a YouTube channel. I'm kind of good at it. My email is beneficencetv@gmail.com. So if you want any help with that, just let me know.
channel. Make sure you subscribe, and maybe we can get him to put more of his adventures online. Let's take a look back at where this adventure actually started. I was trying to build a ZVS Tesla coil and was having a really rough time with it. As you can see, I was setting the coil on fire. Sean contacted me on my channel and said he had the answer for what I was looking for, and he showed me this coil. Everything was working properly. Wasn't on fire, everything in tune, everything showed up on the oscilloscope great. Then he showed me what it can really do. Little did I know this was just the beginning of what Sean was going to show me. He had some designs that were completely different than a conventional Tesla coil. The coil you just saw is not wound like anything I have ever seen before. Every one of the slices that you see on this coil are spots where the wire can be wound inside the slot. He's not just coupling one magnetic field to another magnetic field. He's coupling one magnetic field to multiple magnetic fields. Every single slice that you see has its own magnetic field. As they build up, it looks more like an AC flyback than a Tesla coil. However, the power that comes out of this is completely intense. Now that version 1 was a resounding success, he moved on to version 2. This version proved to be way more powerful. It was having a problem with the number 1 coil coupling to the number 2. To solve this, he had to take the number 1 coil and put it at 30 degrees. This seemed to solve the issue. Most of us would be happy that we changed the way the Tesla coil looks and works. But then again, you wouldn't know Sean if you didn't know that it's going to the next level. So here we go. We get ready for the Death Star. This is the first time that I've ever seen a round Tesla coil. And the fact that he's building it like an AC flyback with such intense power is absolutely amazing. Let's look a little more in depth at what's going on here. As he did with the last 2 Tesla coils, this one is individually sliced, and every single slice has several wires in it before it goes on to the next level, creating multiple magnetic fields. Because the power of these Tesla coils are so intense, they have to be placed in epoxy resin, then placed in a vacuum chamber to remove all the bubbles.
We believe in a future where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
Shut up. How rude. I just want to pause this right now and say how badly I want to say holy F, but I can't cuss. I can't curse on YouTube, but I want to say it really loud. What the F? What the F? Look at this. Look at this. What the flying F is going on here? Wow. Look in the smoke. Look at, or is that just, no, that might just be a flash on the screen.
This is the first time that I've ever seen a round Tesla.
For a second there, it looked like it was producing kind of smoke. Yeah, that's insane. Wow. Cherry bomb.
It's easy to get lost in all the sparks going off on a Tesla coil, so I wanted to bring your attention to this. Look down at the number 1 coil. There's no way that's normal. Sean doesn't just push the boundaries with the number 2 coil, he pushes the boundaries with the number 1 coil. He is constantly improving himself in every single build. I know a lot of you out there are going to have a lot of questions for what Sean's doing here. Sean's going to be live with us Monday the 19th on the Fringe Think Tank. He's going to answer all your questions. He's going to give a...
Love you too, Crypto Man. Lots of love for Crypto. Hey, if anybody's watching and hasn't subscribed to Crypto's channel, go and subscribe now. It's Crypto Alchemist. He has some amazing content. He is actually in chat right now, so I think if you click his little icon there, you can get directed to his channel.
Great presentation of exactly what he's working on. I hope to see all of you there. And please, let's subscribe to his channel and let's get him to build this thing out and show us exactly all the builds that he's doing. Trust me. Sean's
So
the
he has
guy
a
to
channel
look for
now.
when you go to build a Tesla.
If Sean has a channel, put it in chat, Nathan, and I'll go and subscribe right now. There we go. It's in the description. My bad. I always forget to check the description. Alright, so this is Sean's channel. Sean Calderon. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, it's not signed in? What the heck? Well, I'm going to subscribe with my other account. So give me 1 second. Bam! Alright, that's what I'm talking about. So right now, Sean's at 1 subscriber. Let's get that increased, okay? Let's get that increased a little bit. Oh, bam! 2. There we go. Anybody else? Anybody else want to jump on the Sean Calderon train? Oh, let's move on to the Bedini Schoolgirl Circuit. This is a clip that I found. I think it's just a clip from the Beyond the Advanced Handbook video edition that is for paid customers of, I guess, I forget the name of the website. It's the Bedini website. We're going to check that out. I found that I don't think it's the whole thing. I think it's just a clip that somebody uploaded, and I managed to find it. Alright, so this is the Bedini SG Beyond the Advanced Handbook video version, demonstrated by Peter Lindemann, 2016 Energy Science and Technology Conference. 2016, I believe that's the year that Bedini passed away, isn't it? So, I didn't know this, and this is actually a tragedy that someone as a frequent visitor of YouTube as I didn't know that there's so many Bedini lectures on YouTube. They're just not being promoted by the algorithm. And it's a dang shame, and it's time that we promote some of those Bedini lectures. And here's one. I'm pretty sure this isn't Bedini, though. I think this is a lecture by Peter Lindemann, or a demonstration by Peter.
Which a resting battery at 12.
Yeah, okay.
25.3.
This was a
24.7.
Okay, so we got two batteries. 25.2
Yes,
and
crypto, we're here for you,
25.3
man.
is nominal 12.6, which a resting battery at 12.6 is pretty full. Not bad. And the other one's at 24.8, 24.7 is about 12.4. In other words, well within the working range, but room for charge, okay? After 13 hours of run. Seems promising. What? Something like this. Yeah. They were more sulfated. You know, reading, you know, but yeah, it settled into this slot pretty quickly. Okay. So, what I want to do is, so we've got our baseline, and so what I want to do is I want to just fire this thing up, and I'm gonna just spin this around just a little bit like this, so you can't see it at all. just figure that.
You can see the shaft.
You're helping everyone else.
You can see the shaft.
Yeah, there you go.
You got shafted.
Yeah, you got shafted. Okay, that's a good way to think about it. Okay, so there's two wheels on here. They each.
So we have Sean Calderon here, Calderon, sorry, in chat. Hi Sean, how you doing? Let me read what you said here. Said, hey Ben, I don't have a channel. Nathan was kind enough to give me a gentle nudge to start one. I'll start the channel sometime next week, and you'll be the first to know. Oh, okay. So you're gonna start another channel outside of your private YouTube channel, which is smart. Anyways, I made the mistake in thinking that was your channel. Sorry. So when you do decide to create your channel, though, let me know, and we'll get some ideas going if you need help with anything, like intro videos or ideas for editing, if you need help with that sort of thing. Just reach out, beneficencetv@gmail.com. Now, back to Bedini.
Each have 6 magnets. There's a coil at every magnet, and the motor section is just these 2 coils down in the bottom. We have a standard 8 transistor board from Teslagenics, and all of this stuff is pretty standard stuff from Teslagenics. Okay? So the wheels have a fair amount of weight on them. They've got 3 magnets deep. That was just part of the experiment. I'm not sure that is particularly optimum or anything else. It's just, it just came out of triple triggering, and now you can hear it. It's accelerating more, and the lights are starting to come on. And so I haven't changed the variable resistor yet. So, yeah.
So we have maybe 15 minutes or so.
Right.
While it's speeding up, do we take questions?
No, I want to actually show them certain features of the speed up and everything. Yeah. So,
Feel the wind from it.
yeah, there you go.
Right.
Okay, so, yeah, air conditioning.
It's a very expensive fan.
Okay, so the input has kind of settled at about 2.5 amps. And it's kind of settled in. So here's a very interesting thing that you can find. Normally in an electric motor, of course, if you give it more power, it'll speed up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this dial and give it less energy. Sure, and you'll see that immediately on the current meter. So you're the witness here. I'm going to dial this down.
2 amps.
Down to about say 1.75.
1.75.
Okay, and now you can hear it going faster again. Continuing to accelerate now.
Put the mic by the ear so we can hear. Yeah. Right. You got tack. Have you guys measured the RPM on that?
Yeah, I've got a tachometer here. This thing gets up to about 850. 850 is where this thing goes. As it goes faster, of course, more pulses per second, and so it starts drawing a little bit more current. See, so it's back up to about almost 2 again. And so the way to get it to keep accelerating is to keep dialing it down. Okay, so, boy, I always wanted motors like this. The less you give them, the more they give back. This is really true. So what we have here is a situation. This is we're in position 1. So this is the battery that's charging. So what's this up to?
27.3.
Okay. So it's definitely charging. And of course the lights are getting brighter. And so what this machine is, John always said this isn't a motor. How many hated hearing? Okay. And the reason he says that is it's true. This thing is pretty much of a gutless wonder. And it keeps accelerating the less you give it. So it has to be tied to a generator that clearly isn't going to take any of this mechanical energy out of it because there's almost none there in the first place. So only this thing can only operate with this zero drag generator operation. Okay, and so that's what the lights are running on. Okay, every time a magnet goes past one of these coils, and by the way, we're running 3/4 of an inch gap on the generator coils right now, which means we haven't even started getting anything out of this, okay? But I just wanted to demonstrate that this here is generated current, so that and you can clearly, I mean, even if this was a standard generator, this amount of electricity wouldn't slow this thing down much anyway. So I can't prove to you that this thing's operating, in a zero drag arrangement, but you can hear it keeps accelerating. So so it takes a little while to feather this thing up to maximum speed, and so the faster the magnets go past here, the more electricity they produce, and
So that was an interesting clip that I found, and those were some interesting things that we didn't get to on the Fringe Think Tank last week or this week. But next week we will have on Sean, and I absolutely cannot wait for that episode. Everybody, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe and get that notify button when I set up the stream for Monday, because it's going to be one amazing show. We're going to have on Sean Calderon and his, who is the inventor of the Death Star Tesla coil that we just saw a moment ago. Amazing, amazing stuff. With that, we're going to move on to, I know I wanted to get more into Nathan's channel. He's been doing a heck of a job uploading enormous amounts of content onto his channel. Even getting into some controversy with another YouTuber who was a little bitter about all of his success, which is unfortunate, but that's what happens when you're an awesome YouTuber. You just seem to attract some negative attention as well. So with that said, we're going to jump into some amazing videos that Nathan's been uploading on his channel regarding free energy and the science behind it. All right, let's see what we got here. Now that's the one we just watched. That's Sean's video. And I just want to stop and... yeah, it doesn't say I'm subscribed to anything because I'm not logged in. I don't know why it logged me out. I think I cleared my cache, or I cleared my history, but I accidentally cleared my cache and cookies as well earlier. And that's probably why it logged me out. But, anybody who's not subscribed to Nathan's channel, go to Old Man Builds. Just type in Old Man Builds, and you'll see Nathan's his icon right here. He's doing some amazing work with coils himself and reverse engineering the Graviflyer, which I haven't told anybody yet, but I'm thinking about having that as the main topic of my next season 2 of Divine Science. It's still in the works, you know, mostly in my head, but if I get everything right and it goes well, I might be introducing the Graviflyer as a main topic of discussion in Season 2 of Divine Science. Now again, we have 2 more episodes of Divine Science before Season 2. We have the Hutchison effect, which is also coupled with dustification, and how those two link, and how, especially how they break down into the larger picture of what we've been painting for ourselves here on this channel regarding free energy and exotic vacuum objects. And then episode 3 I haven't even discussed yet, but that will be on Joe Parr. This is another new tidbit I have not released yet, but episode 3 of Divine Science will be on Joe Parr. We've had plenty of Divine Science specials in between, but we are getting ready to close up Season 1 of Divine Science, and I'm interested in exploring more ideas for Season 2. And the Graviflyer seems like a good candidate, so if anybody has any ideas, or if they would like to see Graviflyer as a main topic of discussion on Season 2 of Divine Science, please let me know. With that said, we're going to jump into some John Bedini Radiant Energy. Yeah, so Nathan's released a lot of John Bedini videos, and unfortunately I haven't been able to watch them all, but we're going to watch this one together, and I'm going to try to watch as many as possible while I'm on stream, you know, because it's a way of multitasking for my own research purposes. So, with that said, we're going to jump into John Bedini, Energy from the Vacuum. Time to help people customize. Energy from the Vacuum 6, Radiant Energy. I assume that's part 6.
Radiant energy. If you're talking about radiant energy, to me, what do I consider radiant? Okay, what I consider radiant is the capturing of a spike. I consider that radiant. You know, anything that, say, I generate the radiant energy. I do that by my coils, my switching circuits. That's how I generate radiant energy. In other words, what I'm saying is that I'm only concerned with a sharp transient in the spike as far as the radiant goes. You know, as far as negative energy goes, the negative energy comes from the battery. Once I generate this sharp transient and charge the battery, it's a negative effect to the battery because there's no heating of the battery with the radiant charger. So basically, the thing is to build circuits that generate these sharp transients and then steal that sharp transient and put that to the battery. That way I don't need much current at all to do it. Next question.
Could you talk a bit about the radiant spikes that we saw on the screen for the pendulum oscillator?
The radiant spike, the pendulum's a totally different machine. You know, and it's like one transient spike at a time. You know, it's still the same principle. It's still, each time that the pendulum goes up or the pendulum goes down, we just transfer that energy from one, right, it's a balancing act between, you know, the pendulum movement. And so one battery being lower than the other battery, it balances between the two batteries. And it's...
Right, he's talking about creating an instability, and nature doesn't like instability, so what nature will do is create stability within that instability, and you're using that reaction. This is not any different than what Tom Bearden describes, you know, and also Gerald, the Lord of the Rings himself. He is on our Fringe Think Tank podcast and Free Energy Fridays podcast. He has done some amazing work with over-unity in the field of in the realm of coils, specifically using sacred geometry to wind in specific patterns to produce different effects. Now, he claims, and I believe him, that he has 7 different instabilities within his system creating that over-unity effect, and everything that's happening is because of those 7 instabilities that they specifically teach you to avoid when you go to conventional academia. In regards to electrical engineering, they'll teach you to avoid, for instance, parasitic capacitance, or avoid placing 2 capacitors too closely to each other to produce that parasitic effect. Some way and somehow that reaction is producing a counter reaction within the ether, and he's using that counter reaction within his system and producing enormous amounts of energy from the vacuum. Like the input power isn't affected at all in his coil. So it's very impressive work. If you wish to see more, he's actually planning on doing a demonstration on Free Energy Fridays podcast tomorrow, I believe it is. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be one heck of a show. Now, back to Bedini.
It's still the same wave, except that the wave it's much longer in time.
What happens if you try to swap the primary battery with a secondary battery that's being charged with a radiant?
No, you cannot. You can't mix the two sources. One electricity is completely different than the next. One, you're asking, you're putting in a positive form of energy, right? And you're asking for a negative form out, which is the radiant. And so therefore, you can't just swap the batteries without a time period between them. And you just can't take the back battery and put it on the front battery, because it's just going to kill itself if you do that. However, you can put as many batteries as you want on the back. Now you can move that to something else. You take the battery that you charge and run an inverter, and then you could run the inverter and charge the front battery. So you have to change the forms of energy because they're both different forms.
So that would apply to every one of your devices?
Every one of my devices.
In a normal circuit, when you increase the load, the current increases. What goes on in your circuits?
You're talking about Lenz's law. You're talking about the back EMF interfering with the work of the motor. It's free in the monopole system. We don't even have a Lenz's law. You know, we have no counter back EMF to slow down the motor under load. So if we slow down the motor, we can't draw more current. We never, you know, the current is just going to go down. Motor's going to go slower, same pulse, same spike's going to appear, same radiant. But we're not faced with a Lenz's law problem, you know, of counter electromagnetic force.
Is the pendulum system a closed loop system?
No, they were 2 separate loops. There were two separate loops, one being closed at the back and one being closed at the front. But the two loops are not tied together, and it's out of phase from each other. So when the front's doing something, the back isn't receiving a signal at all. It's not until the pendulum swings the other direction.
So you had so when the pendulum comes down, the trigger pulse comes in.
Well, no, it comes in after. You got to charge the iron in the pendulum, and then the trigger pulse takes place later. About 22 degrees after that.
In that motor behind you, you were talking about an imaginary south pole. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
It's an imaginary pole between the two magnetic norths. Because remember, these are sharp pinpoint beams, and so they come up and they go around. And then, of course, the south appears, and you can see that you can see it with a magnetic indicator that between these poles, right in here, the motor isn't running until it's past the pole. Between the two north poles is an imaginary south.
Wow.
And so, being that this thing comes around and gets triggered, gets triggered here, see, when it passes the trigger circuit, right, it's always past the trigger circuit by about 22 degrees. And so it's really in between these two magnets when the coil fires. So, it's just imaginary. It's like, it's a scalar sound. You can see it with a magnetic indicator. It shows up, but there's no magnetic pole there. It's where the fields all come together, not a plastic wheel. See, actually, this shaft is south. Now, if the magnet's way up here, and there's a loss, how did this get to be south? Because this is a real south pole on the shaft. And then, of course, coming up, you have the north pole going up, comes around, right? But this actually becomes, and remember we talked about the magnetic beam being pinpoint on each one of these. So it's pinpoint. And then in between here is the south scalar. These are all north poles together. So these are pushed together to make up a magnetic pinpoint beam. So it's not a good generator. So it has trouble getting triggered, when you spin this thing. But I don't know if you could hear this or not. If we get this thing to... Those are the triggers. And see, it's always triggered after the fact. There's only one trigger. So... And it's more like a big radial magneto. Because the H-wave's involved in this too. And of course the light you see in the background is being generated from the trigger, just from these scalar norths. Because there's no south pole involved. It's imaginary here. And that's what's driving the engine. Take away the magneto, and it'll just, no power at all. So it's not generating a thing. Notice there's no drag on it even though it's connected to the battery. There's no vacuum now.
So there was a piece of the footage that I saw about, I think you were demonstrating the magnetic monopole motor to William and showing two banks of batteries there, and you were talking about flip-flopping
Can't trade them.
You can't trade them at all. So yeah, it was about just making clear that none of your devices can be used to flip-flop batteries.
No, you wouldn't want to flip the batteries. It's two different types of energy. One energy is driving the system. The other one is a radiant type energy.
Sorry about that, guys.
Being put into the secondary battery. Now you can drive normal stuff.
Jack Carter asked, what did I miss? So you missed a little bit, but not too much regarding Bedini. We just started diving into some of Bedini's videos that Nathan has been courteously uploading on his channel, and that I have reluctantly not been able to get to. So we're watching this one, which is called Energy from the Vacuum Part 6, Radiant Energy. And we have John Bedini explaining radiant energy and how he taps the vacuum to achieve radiant energy in a system.
With it, you can drive a light bulb, you can drive an inverter, drive a DC motor. You can drive an inverter to charge the front battery as long as you keep the two electricities isolated. See, the battery performs giving you the same thing, but for some strange reason, if you trade batteries back and forth, you just run out of energy. However, if you take a little bit of the back battery and use an inverter, you can charge the front battery. You have to change the form of it.
So if you took an inverter, you could swap back and forth?
Yeah, you could.
That motor behind you, what does that have in common with your other motors?
They all remain the same no matter what size they are. They all function absolutely the same. There's a smaller one over there, then there's another one, then there's one over here, there's one in this corner over here. And you see just the sizes have changed, although they operate identically the same.
We know Trump will sign a national abortion ban if he gets the chance. But we won't let him. Because we trust women to know what is it.
I said shut up. How rude. And since we're watching on Nathan's channel, I'm trying to give him some ad revenue, so apologize for the ads, but it is a charity event for Nathan right now. Let's try to up his stakes.
Difference?
Right, that's the radiant charger. That, the motor. Yeah, you
And if anybody isn't subscribed to Old Man Builds YouTube channel, please go over to Old Man Builds right now and subscribe. He's got some amazing content, and we are actually watching some of it right now.
Notice the same thing. You can, because since these are such high voltage unit, they just can charge a battery that's been sulfated. Actually breaks the sulfation away.
So the radiant energy can restore a scrap heap battery that's completely sulfated.
Yes, it does. Breaks it off.
Does the number of poles on the different...
Hey, can somebody take a clip of this real quick? I want to clip it for a future video.
models of motors make any difference to their effectiveness, John?
Doesn't make any difference. Could be 2 poles. Could be 1 pole.
And in the context of your radiant charging machines, how do you see the term COP applying?
Well, the COP is completely different from what you're measuring. One doesn't have anything to do with the other. I have to go along with Tom Bearden on that most people can't measure COP. They have no idea what this machine's doing. The COP is in the battery. Does the battery run longer? Does it take the charge better? Does it charge faster? You see, how long can we sustain this battery? You're building up the COP in the system by charging the battery with this type device. Because we're not saying any COP is developed in the machine whatsoever. It's all in the chemical, in the battery. You can charge with this system, and immediately when you load the battery, you're going to find out that it's extended. You know, now you start calculating your COP because you know what the battery can put out. You do that, and like everybody likes the favorite thing, joules. And but you know that if you charge this battery and you put this in, but then you get extended out, you know, where you know that under a normal conventional charger you're losing time each time. This system gains time each time, and it gets to a certain point, and that's it. That's as efficient as the battery's going to get.
Tom talks about negative energy, and you talk about radiant energy. Could you expand on that a little bit?
They're both the same. They're one and the same. You know, if you're talking about radiant energy, you're also talking about negative energy. It's basically the same thing. It's the negative end of it. I mean, a sharp transient produces this negative energy.
How do you see radiant energy coming in, John?
Well, it comes in waves. You know, radiant energy comes in waves. So, of course, you're going to see this alteration. Because all the devices are switching all at the same time. They're all at the same level. But yet you see this rolling wave that's low in frequency. You know, so you see this sort of like ocean wave. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. This is nothing more than what Murray talked about, or any of these people, about the way they said that the energy comes in waves. It seems to be like an ocean wave or a gravitational wave. You know, it seems to ride in on some form of gravity wave, where it's up and down and up and down and up and down. Sometimes it comes in stronger, and sometimes it comes in a lot lighter. No, it does change. You know, this wave does change during, say, a full moon. Some of these motors have been known during a full moon to speed up just a little bit. You know, they actually go a little bit faster at night and a little bit slower during the day. And of course, we've been able to...
So that's interesting, because, and I'm not an alchemist by any means. I'd like to learn more about alchemy. But he's saying that these motors tend to get more efficiency when there's a full moon, meaning that there's some kind of effect going on with the moon and some kind of interaction between the moon and the aether. Now, the crypto alchemist, Bernie, who you might know from as our gracious host of Free Energy Fridays, he is an experienced alchemist, and he's working on making monoatomic structured water. And he told us an interesting little tidbit that I think is relevant here. It's not until he places some of his experimental waters under a full moon that they turn a specific color, and that color is purple, or what Malcolm describes as the ancients labeling orichalcum, which is the color of also the Hutchison effect, some of the Hutchison effect samples, where it turns the copper like a purplish color. It's very interesting because it might play into the same phenomenon going on here. And the orichalcum that Malcolm Bendel describes that King Solomon bought from the Egyptians was supposedly a spent cold fusion reactor fuel of Atlantis. And with that, back to Bedini.
To see this on RPM gauges and things like that, that these things actually run a little bit faster at night. So I wouldn't really say full moon, you know, but...
Who was the first person to really stumble into radiant energy? Was this Stubblefield or Tesla?
Tesla.
Yeah.
Tesla's the one that basically, you know, did everything radiant. And Stubblefield used it too, but a different form of it. So it's just something that, you know, people are trying to duplicate to this day. But we've found a way to do this, and we just charge batteries with it.
According to Tom, eventually there might be a possibility of running a huge charger output on secondary batteries that could power houses or whatever from just a tiny...
Well, yeah, if you look at a Tesla coil when a Tesla coil is operating, you think that the sparks that are being emitted from it are actually coming from, but actually it's drawing this in. It's more like a fluid, and providing that you get this thing really into resonance and stuff like that, this actually grows. This, envelops a whole field with this gaseous mixture of white, which is actually what you have to convert to get the energy, from the vacuum. You have to be able to convert this radiant. You have to be able to translate this in some form, and then turn it to something that's usable, like what we know as electricity. But then once again, you're going to end up charging a battery with it, or you're going to end up running lights with it, or you're going to end up running a DC motor with it. Now just using this stuff right off, you're not going to run an AC motor. But you're going to run an incandescent light.
Could you talk about the nature of the radiant energy being a little bit more like a gas? Not like a conventional current, but like a nebulous gas?
Yeah, Tom talks about powering a battleship with a flashlight battery, which is entirely possible because we've seen some of these oscillators run down to 0.4 of a volt. We've seen these things run on moonlight.
I got my life back after 30 years of suffering, thanks to Dr. Daniel Pompa. And what Dr. Pompa taught me is that it's not about the blood work, it's about what is getting.
So that's interesting. Jack Carter says, awesome, thanks. We'll check it out. Yes, anybody who hasn't checked out my very special flux capacitor divine science video, it's a divine science special. It goes into the detailed effects of time dilation occurring within Malcolm Bendel's thunderstorm generator. It is 55 minutes of highly produced valuetainment. It is fun, it's funny, it's very educational, and I highly suggest you go to my channel after this live stream and check it out. It is actually, I linked everybody to it in the chat. So this YouTube link here that I just put in the chat, that's to my 55-minute long flux capacitor divine science special. So you guys check it out later. It's a great watch, and enjoy.
We've seen them go down, so we know at 1 volt they're putting out a half amp or something like that. So
don't forget to drop a like on it if you like the video. So trying to get it more triggered by the algorithm.
The system you're talking about would be the one that you currently have in development.
The system that's our proprietary system, yeah. And I have to put that in there, Tony. Proprietary system. I'm not going to talk much about that.
That's pretty much all my questions.
So we're done. Now I can take this microphone off.
We're just getting going. The book that you have now with Tom Bearden, what have you put in the book, John?
I've let loose all the inverted circuits Tom and I worked on to prove out what this stuff is. This is on a very minute scale, so people can actually make a working circuit. So Tom and I were happy to let that go into the public domain because we want people to work on this. So they have no excuses anymore. You just get the circuit, make the circuit, don't change anything, and study what it's doing, how it operates. And that's my suggestion to everybody, is just time to get to work. Don't change anything. Don't think that you know anything better right at this moment in time, because you don't. It's you want the circuit to operate just like
it's absolutely right. I mean, you could change it after you get it working and after you studied it, but in terms of not changing the original instructions, That's very important here, especially when trying to replicate the thunderstorm generator. If you have teams that are working on a thunderstorm generator, please follow Malcolm's instructions to a T. He noted in the Cosmic Summit in one of his lectures recently that the thunderstorm generator, which he graciously open sourced to everybody in the community, scientific communities, which it's been studied by independent researchers all around the world. And there was this one group who was like, Malcolm, we can't get it to work, and we don't know why. And he's like, well, let me take a look at it, send me some pictures or whatever. And apparently they didn't follow his instructions on insulating the engine, right? They put it on an insulated mat, but they didn't insulate the engine itself, which has to be insulated from the retrofit with rubber fittings around the side as mounts. So that explains it. And once they fixed it, apparently they got it working. But it's very, very important to follow these inventors' instructions to a T when you're trying to understand some of these devices, especially if you're skeptical about them working. Because as I was skeptical slightly of the rodent coil when working on it, as you all know, now that I followed the instructions to a T, I have a system that can produce 155% efficiency. And you can too with my do-it-yourself guide. So check out my 155% efficiency guide, which is on my video called 0 Point Energy Solved? ? I'll link to it in a minute.
What's there? And then after that, after you get it working, you can make all the changes you want. But up until that point in time, if you make changes, don't expect it to work until you really know what this pulse is and what's going on with these inverted circuits and how the battery is being charged from the inverted circuit.
And the first book, which is also being reprinted, the one from 1984, several people took that and...
Yeah, several people, right, the Bedini's free energy generator. Right, I think even Mythbusters tried to build that one, didn't they? But yeah, anybody that... Right.
Wait, he said Mythbusters tried to build what?
Going on with these inverted circuits and how the battery is being charged from the inverted circuit.
And the first book, which is also being reprinted, the one from 1984, several people took that and...
Yeah, several people, right, the Bedini's free energy generator. Right, I think even Mythbusters tried to build that one.
I'm going to try to find that episode and find exactly if they did that and they didn't produce anything. I'm going to try to
anybody that
deconstruct what they did wrong, if that's actually something they tried to reproduce, because
precisely that they build it.
This is something that I've seen in other myth-busting videos, is they don't follow the instructions to a T, like that Moray character. What's his name? Murray Smith. Hold on, I'll get his full name in a second. So, Robert Murray Smith. And I'm gonna let me pull up this video here for a second, because I wanna emphasize this point to everybody: how important it is to follow these instructions to a T.
Want to know what investment has made the most?
That everybody hates. There are easier ways of doing it. For instance, we looked at the serpentine coil, and then of course we looked at the most God gave. Of course, you will just get one to create a center stuff for a quick and dirty test. But I'm actually more interested in it for a more prosaic reason. It reminds me very much of the Foul Harbour coil with these bits here. Remember the foul?
Okay, so as you can see in his coil design, it is a star pattern, but there is no counter So with these systems, if you want to produce over unity, the most important thing is to produce a torsion field with the electromagnetic fields. And the reason why we have these sacred geometric patterns that we wind these coils in is to compress and condense these magnetic fields on top of each other in such a way that it does produce a torsion field, which is two counter-rotating fields. Now, the way to produce this is not through one channel, like we see here. He's got an input and output for one channel. You need at least two channels to produce the negative energy flow backwards and produce the counter-rotational spin and successfully create the torsion field required to pinch the pole and produce the outflow of radiant energy. Now, you know, Robert Murray Smith is an amazing engineer. He's done some amazing work, but unfortunately he's done a great disservice to us all by trying to debunk these coils, and he's not actually following the instructions of people like, for instance, Daniel Nunez of First Stop Energies, right? You have to have that energy flowing in both directions in order to produce the over unity effects that are required.
Diagram in the back.
But I digress. Now, back to Bedini.
And get it to go first. You can build a solid state relay that does the switching like Watson did. But just expect that if you start running stuff with this, you'll probably disappear too. That's it. I mean, Watson's machine was like an 800-pound flywheel. And probably was 15 to 18 feet long. Probably weighed something like almost 1,500 pounds. Right? And did something like 5 kVA. It was running on 2 small little car batteries. And we're talking about a big mass, we're talking about, you know, an aircraft starter that he had to order special, right? But once he wound up this flywheel to, I guess it was around maybe 400 or 500 RPMs, then he only had to supply a pulse every once in a while. Click, clack, click, clack. Capacitor charges up, dumps to the battery. Capacitor charges up, dumps to the battery. Same thing as a monopole motor now. Only see, we tried to reduce the size of it so you could understand the effect of it.
We believe in a future where...
Nope. So Sean says, I kind of take from Murray what works and ignore what he's wrong on. Yeah, that honestly, that's all you can do, you know. And I've done the same. I've had to do the same with people like Ken Wheeler, whose work in The Secrets of Magnetism really helped me understand magnets on a level that far exceeds any academic instruction. But Ken Wheeler is wrong on a lot of stuff. And, you know, you have to just take everything with a grain of salt, you know. Be open-minded but skeptical. Be an open-minded skeptic. And, you know, double-check everything that especially if it doesn't smell right. You know, unfortunately, you know, you can have an absolute genius like Ken Wheeler who's understands the secret of magnetism, but he's completely ignorant on other areas of science. Yeah. So, says the next day, John Bedini demonstrates to UK mathematical physicist David Clements, PhD, how the radiant energy is captured and put to use on the bench. Let's check it out.
This is regauging.
Right.
This is regauging itself. So the zero is in the center here.
Right. When you say regauging, it was basically changing.
Right, let's do this because everybody's always said to me, well, I can't find the South Pole. Where is it? you get that on film there, Tony? I can't find the South Pole.
Hey, that was me when I was testing the rodent coil system that I built. But with the North Pole, I was like, I can't find the frickin' North Pole. Like, where is it? Where's the North Pole? Am I freaking out, guys? Like, I couldn't find the North Pole for the life of me. I mean, I finally found it. And that, honestly, I think I attribute it to the fact that my coil is not perfectly symmetrical. And that could maybe, because the North Pole is supposed to be pinched in such a way where it's just not detectable by, anything but really sensitive equipment. So that's something that it's just a theory that I had of why I could actually, because I found a North Pole, and Daniel and Erica Nunez of First Stop Energies researched this coil for over 10 years, and they could not find a North Pole. Not that I've seen, at least. I mean, a lot of their videos got taken down. I hadn't seen a lot of their videos. But according to their research presentation at the Breakthrough Energy Movement, I think it was like 2013 or 16 or something like that, they claimed that they could not find a North Pole. And I found one, which I don't know. I was trying to rack my brain around it for a long time. The only thing I can think of is that the coil that I have isn't, since it's not perfectly symmetrical, it might have a leakage where the North Pole at certain, if you increase the gain or the power input into the coil, it might just, open up that North Pole just enough to be detected. It was very weird. You see an electromagnet and you put a pole detector up to it, it's supposed to go north, south, north, south, north, south in a pulsing manner. But mine was like south, 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 north, south, south, south. I was like, what? Yeah, that would be a cool project, Nathan.
It's not balanced.
I was thinking about building this one myself.
And that there's a rock inside the bear.
There's a rock in the bear.
Okay.
Or maybe modifying phase 2 of our Bedini
professor
schoolgirl
must have
circuit
his
to include
glass.
something like this. I don't know.
Okay. So see, there's a north. Are you getting this, Tony?
Yep.
Here's the north. And then you move out here and see here's the imaginary south at about 23 degrees right here. And this is, since the motor's attractive, it's going to push away on this south when it fires. So then you come down here, and there's the north. See, and there's, in between the south and the north is a 0. And then there's the south again. And there's a 0 between the north and the south. See, there's imaginary south there. And then there's a north. All right, so there's an imaginary south here and a null out or a 0.
It's a 0.
And a 0 again. And then a north. And then an imaginary south, a 0 and a 0. So there's like 4. What it's doing is coming around here like this, going like this, back to this one over here. So now, what we want to do is these are all north poles. You can see by the indicator that they're just all north. There's no south poles out here. And what we're going to do is show you by just the little trigger signal. And when these blink, that's the spike that you want to capture. So we'll let it pick up speed, and it'll pick up speed automatically. It's pulling a lot of weight right now. So
They're legally robbing you. And it's happening every time you pay for car insurance. Here's the deal. A big chunk of your monthly payment isn't even for insurance.
None of that on my channel. I might have to put up with these ads, but I don't have to listen to them. Please do not take any advice from this guy. He looks shady AF. You're not fooling anybody, bro. I know you dyed them tips white.
Okay, but we're going to map these fields right now. Okay, so
All right.
what we have is
Sorry about that, folks.
a North Pole here. And a
Hey,
north
Jalapeno.
here.
How you doing?
So we have we have a south that does this. And then what we have is a 0 here and a 0 here. So we have this all the way around the wheel, like this. So now if we want to collect, the motor's pushing away at 23 degrees. This is actually at 23 degrees.
So check this out. No, guys, check this out. And I don't know if it's a connection here, but it says 23 degrees that John refers to here is actually the top of the range that one will normally encounter with an 8-pole monopole motor. The angle for this particular 16-pole motor is about 11.25 degrees. Now, what is the resonant frequency of the time crystal from Malcolm Bendel's presentation from the Cosmic Summit? 22.5 degrees. When we cut a sphere at a specific angle to produce a square, and then again 2 triangles point to point, and then again at 22.5 degrees we get this structure right here. Give me 1 second to pull it up. Slideshow. Ooh, I could do a slideshow. That's right. Nice. So I have a whole bunch of cool slides real quick, pictures from the Cosmic Summit that somebody that I met there online was gracious enough to send me. All right, so this is the time crystal. As you can see, it is nothing that at least I've ever seen before, a shape that I've ever seen before. I'll put more pictures up here. It's another angle of it. So this is a shape that when you cut it at the 22.5 degree angle, produces this implosive structure. And as you can see, at least I believe, these angles that are going inward are the bits that are imploding, forming this shape. And this produces a time crystal, which resonates at the frequency of time itself. And if you are not familiar with these concepts, I highly suggest you go, and I have it linked in the chat here, my flux capacitor time dilation effects occurring within the thunderstorm generator video. And that's a highly produced video. It's fun, it's funny, it's educational, it's entertaining, and it's about 55 minutes. So after this stream, I suggest if you haven't seen the flux capacitor video I put out to watch it. It's fun. It's a fun video, and it'll teach you a lot about the thunderstorm generator and the universe. Now I have digressed enough with this. Let's go back to Bedini.
Okay, so now we're going to run on the south. We're going to charge the iron with the north, and we're going to run on the south. So once again, this is the radiant energy we're going to collect. And you can see these things are burnt black from trying to contain that voltage. So here, now the radiant goes away and gets into the capacitor. And then what we're going to do is store this charge and then discharge it across the battery. So this is what we're going to end up with. Each time. And we're going to take another flash of that. So once again, we're storing the radiant charge in this capacitor. Gets to a certain level, we want to discharge it to the battery. And each time the battery gets that discharge, this is what it gets. Got it?
So the potential you're getting across that capacitor is what, about 400 volts?
Yeah, about 100. This capacitor is probably about 75 or 80 volts here with this capacitance. If you were to use this 0.1, it'd be like a 400 volts or 500 volts, much more than what this capacitor could take. So basically, what you're going to do is you're going to store the charge, and you're going to repeat this operation over and over like this. Oh, let me get it over here. See, and then you time it so that you just give it that little arc right there. So it'd be about 2 or 3 seconds each pulse. So you just need to be over the battery with this pulse like this. So we did away with the capacitor. Because of the way this arrangement is, and we just go right to the next battery and it absorbs the radiant energy.
That's a 12 volt battery.
Yeah. See, this battery didn't have very much in it because it rose up at the beginning and lowered the impedance, and now it's putting the charge to the battery. As the battery falls downward, the impedance gets lower and lower and lower. So the energy is actually getting absorbed into the chemical right now. Do you want to repeat that again, Tony?
As well.
Okay. So. So we'll watch the capacitor build this time, and you decide which one you want. So we're starting out with a capacitor that really doesn't have that in it, a little bit, but see, they charge themselves after they've been sitting. Once they're charged under this method. See, so we've got this capacitor at 0. You can see it here. And watch, it's just going to build its charge up.
And that's just having one terminal connected.
Yeah. The other one isn't. Okay, so now we're going to connect it up and take this radiant energy. get some radiant energy here, and then we're going to just switch the currents. Okay, so here we go. So this is what we've collected.
The brain power you want is not in a bottle, capsule, or magic lamp.
It is inside all of you. All of you have the power to increase your brain capacity in intelligence, in wisdom, in spiritual learning. Simple meditation, prayer, and guidance from the Akasha. Introducing you, a new product by you.
So now, let's not use a capacitor. Let's just tell the machine to charge the battery. We're going to say in this demonstration that the battery is actually the radiant collector. So you can see the radiant energy is on there full. So now we're going to connect this up. The radiance absorbed by the battery. And we're just going to go ahead and push that battery up. So now we've traded batteries. The battery that we've charged, we now have driving the input. And the battery that's discharged, we're now charging. You can see it changing here with that pulse. So if we...
In effect, you're a sense using, say, about 2% of the source battery, and you can
Yeah.
charge it dead.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, right. So to show you that it's not generating anything with this movement, we disconnect the source battery. And so it's not a generator. Now we trigger the radiant out with this pulse. And we're doing the mechanical work and charging the battery. We're doing this mechanical work here. And so you have to take into account the electrical energy in, the electrical energy out, and the amount of work that the wheel's doing to keep that fan going.
It almost seems to me like it's that mechanical motion is needed almost as a byproduct to get an action to trick out.
Yes, exactly, to get the triggering each time in the coil. And see, it's speeding up. As the impedance changes in the battery, it's starting to speed up more and more and more. Kind of interesting, isn't it? So this battery now is coming up, see? It's almost at 1350 now. It's bouncing between 4 and 5 there, see? 9. Each one of those pulses is a little bit different.
You only had that on the capacitor for what, a few seconds?
Yeah, about less than, we want to discharge this capacitor. And then the other thing is don't leave the capacitors open because they sometimes build another charge.
Have you noticed that they build their charge when they're near to these machines?
Oh, no, no. Just after we use them, sometimes they build up another charge, and We think that's the residual leftover in the plates as they expand back.
Ah. And what do we see with plasmoid clusters or EVOs, exotic vacuum objects, huh? We see that within the thunderstorm generator, at least, they have the ability to embed themselves into metal and stay there and then reactivate when the system is turned back on. So in the case of the thunderstorm generator, there was an industrial-sized generator that Malcolm had in the UK running for about 8 years, and they turned it off. And then years later, after they turned it on, it worked without the plasmoid retrofit on it with the water assembly. So the water assembly was not turned on, and the system still produced the effects that we see, the transmutation of carbon into oxygen and hydrogen, and also the efficiency. So that happened for about 20 or 30 minutes, he said, until they had to turn the water assembly back on for the plasmoids to then start generating again in the system and embedding themselves. So I guess they can embed themselves into certain kinds of metal, and then when the system is reactivated, they can then reactivate themselves and discharge and produce that radiant energy. At least that's my theory of what might be going on here, because again, it's all the same thing. There's nothing new under the sun. It's all the same phenomenon. We're just looking at different modalities of the same thing that's happening in nature, and attributing different names to the same thing, essentially, whether we're looking at EVOs, plasmoids, monopoles, tachyons, gravitons. It's just how you utilize them and how that energy is harnessed. And with that said, let's get back to Bedini.
So what you collected there and discharged was purely radiant energy?
Purely radiant. We transformed that high voltage into the capacitor, and then of course we get regular electricity when we short this out. We get real current flow. So when the battery sees real current flow, it just jumps. All right, so the idea is to not have this capacitor, because this causes then heat in the battery. And what we want to do is take advantage of these high voltage spikes you see here. So you can see here that the meter can't even measure it. Doesn't want to measure it. It's got it locked. See?
That changes the noise that you're hearing when you took it off. That's just the lights.
You're hearing the high voltage being triggered. Now listen. That's these pulses. That's the magneto effect. So you remember that this machine works. Let me get this a little bit in the camera. Then what happens is this magnet comes down here and the iron charges. It becomes the same as the magnet. Now the magnet pulls away and the magnetic field discharges. That then is at the correct sign to trigger the devices. You can see it here in one pulse. See if we can get it. There. Okay. See? I'm not quite quick enough, but see there? It's after the magnet leaves.
So that's when it reaches the zero.
Yeah, that's when it reaches the zero, and
See, that right there is fascinating in and of itself, because what we see with most induction coils is that the magnet, when it passes over, is when it induces the electrical current, not after it passes over. So, what the heck is going on here, guys? Now, real quick, I just want to point out the fact that how cool would it be if we had an implosive turbine hooked up to this baby instead of this little, fan here? Now look at this. This is an image that you'll only find here on Beneficence TV. A person that I met at the Cosmic Summit this year online graciously sent me all these images that I have yet to share, and this is one of them, a close-up of Malcolm Bendel's implosive turbine. Look at this thing. So this utilizes two counter-rotating vortexes, and there's no axle. The air goes in one way and then produces the thrust itself, just with the geometry. It's absolutely fascinating, and I wonder, what if we had this thing hooked up to this Bedini flywheel? You know what I mean? Like, I'm wondering how efficient, how our efficiency would, if we would gain anything. Maybe we would have a loss. Maybe it wouldn't affect it at all. Who knows? But I have a sneaking suspicion that it might increase the efficiency a little bit. I know, right? Isn't that so cool? I have another photo of it. Let me pull it up. It's not really a different angle, but yeah, no problem, Jalapeno. There's also actually this one that I think you guys will find really cool. This is a close-up of Sheila's rodent coil that she was using to help us visualize the resonant frequencies off the plasmoid unification model at the Cosmic Summit. Some amazing work. If you guys haven't seen that Cosmic Summit highlight clip that I posted, please check it out. It's got some amazing stuff in here regarding proving the plasmoid unification model is really onto something regarding it being a viable theory on how the universe is actually run. And I think I have another one that's maybe less blurry. Yeah, they're both kind of blurry. But anyways, it's a nice coil. It looks like it's a the frame is an indent. Those are hard to, because unlike mine, these things that have the coil frame that with just an indent in them, here, I might be able to find one real quick. I think I have one. So I don't know if you can see that. Let me turn the light off. But there's grooves. It's basically a big chunk of plastic with grooves in the vortex math pattern here. And this one is, let me tell you, it's deceiving because it looks like it's an easier wind, right? You have the guidelines to lay the wire right there in front of you, but especially a smaller one, let me say, it's not that easy, because what you have to do, instead of this big one, here, I'll bust out the big one in a second. The big one I could just zip tie at all the intersection points, right? I can lay the first coil down, no problem. I don't have to do anything to it. And then the interference pattern that lays on top of it, I can just zip tie, and everything's hunky-dory and even and all that, and it won't move. This, you have to individually, as you're laying the wire, lay down glue and make dang sure that glue is going to stay in place. For this little one, when I actually had it, this is just a demo wind. It's not practical. When I had it wound properly, I used UV glue. And even that was very hard to do because I had to stop. And it was very tedious, very long. You have to stop and let the glue set at every kind of pinch point here or else everything's just going to come undone that you wound before it. This is deceiving, and I do not recommend that you wind your coil in this way unless you're specifically winding a very small one. That's the only exception here because, again, I can't find any Daniel Nunez's PoE, advanced PoE coils. They're a little bit smaller and easier to wind, but I haven't been able to find the coil frames. So until we get those coil frames, this is the best method for smaller coils, but still, be warned, it is tedious. And when I have my workshop, we will not be using this method. We'll be using the slide disc frame for our coils. Now, this, here, let me move this, is the coil that we will be winding in my workshop. I'm going to be having a live stream workshop, and if you guys haven't seen it yet, it's up on my page. You can hit the notify button and check out the do-it-yourself guide for my Rodin coil if you're interested in this workshop, because it has all of the material, has the entire material list that you will need for our workshop, where I will be hands-on building this coil with you and answering your questions, showing you some tips and stuff that I've learned over the years of building this. Yes, so the only problem is right now is I'm waiting for the coil frame. Nathan sent one and it didn't get here. I don't know what happened, but he's sending another one. And when that coil frame gets here, we will be having our workshop. So just keep watching the live streams. I'll try to put out a video for people who miss it, so they're notified as well. But I will let you guys know during a live stream when our actual workshop will be happening. Until then, I'm just going to keep on pushing the date up. It's going to be on a Sunday. It's going to be an all-day event. It's going to be from probably like 7:30 in the morning all the way to 9 o'clock at night, because it's going to take us a while to wind and configure the coil, and I want to make sure I have time to actually explain how to configure and wire the coil up to a stereo amp receiver at the same time and not have it broken up into a different stream. Yeah, it's very basic. It doesn't require a lot. Just make sure you've taken all the proper safety precautions, and you have a safe space to set it up. That's all. And also be warned that this coil, when you use the Nunez method and you output high frequencies, or when you output high voltage, it has the tendency to create ozone. So be warned about that. If you're interested in doing high voltage experiments with the coil, I suggest you do it in a well-ventilated area or outside even. Like if you have a garage, you can open up the garage door. But other than that, this coil is very easy to make. I will show you the process of making it and configuring it yourself. And it's not that hard. It's just a little involved. That's all. And I promise I'll make it as fun as possible. And with that, let's get back to Bedini.
If we take these LEDs, they're in two different phases here, and we just go across the coil, okay? In other words, put the LED across the coil. And suppose we had a timing mark in the center here. So let's say that we can do something like that, where we can get close. You can see right away that the red one and the green one's flashing, but they're out of phase from each other. So if you get it on there and you hit the mark. It's a black mark, and actually we need a white piece of tape, but you'll find out that this will show you the timing if you look in here. You see the two bars in here? That's the timing. See, it's after the fact. It's after the magnet already leaves. So it's got to be running on a scalar sound, the imaginary pole. So if we put a white dot, let's just get a white piece of let's just say we had this white piece of paper, right? And actually it has to be much thinner than that. So if we put this in the center of the magnet, right? So it looks like there it is there. So it's right there on the green. It's after the pole piece. See, and so you can make a simple set of timing lights by using two LEDs back to back and a couple of resistors so that you can see the firing across the coil, and you can see it here. You can see one is the charge and one is the discharge. So that's one way you can do it, to find the exact timing. So what it looks like is that when this white piece comes around, that's the center of the pole, that it comes in, it charges the iron, it discharges and fires right about there. So that puts, basically, if we look at this, these zeros is basically where it's firing. You follow me? Then it it's in repulsion because it's already past it. So it's actually firing at 23 degrees, charging, discharging, firing. Follow me? Charge, time and charge, time and discharge of the iron, and then the pole is in repulsion, and then the motor spins. So that's exactly how this is operating. Got it, boss?
So you've heard about ChatGPT and how AI is predicted to be replacing over 300 million.
Hey. So let's take a moment to catch up on the chat here while these ads are generating revenue for Nathan. Sean from Old Man Builds says, Nathan from Old Man Builds says, Sean has experience in round objects and negative molds. That's awesome. That will be useful, especially if we want to try to recreate the implosive turbine. That would be cool. Yeah, Sean says use a vacuum chamber, set it up with epoxy and resin. So we're talking about putting resin on the coil to kind of like not only preserve it, but also insulate it. Yes, thanks, AKB. Let me put this back on.
So if you...
But yeah, that's definitely a plan of mine, and we're going to put the coil in resin, and hopefully we can do that sometime soon. We'll probably do it another live stream after the workshop that I set up for the coil, and we'll do that live on stream as well, if everything works out.
You could talk about the conventional uses of potential, and for example, you know, conventionalists will tell you how you can use a battery and how you can't use a battery,
Right.
How you have to add them together and how you can't, and how it will or won't work in those ways.
Okay, so let's just look at it with these three batteries off the start. So here's what we have. We have this battery, which if we put these two together, we get 3 volts. And of course the positives at the top, negatives at the bottom. Okay? And we only have one battery on this side, and this is what we have. So we have one like this, and one like this, and one like this. So we have another battery, negative terminals at the bottom. This is the way I see differentials. All right? And these are both positive terminals. Okay, so if I said to you, okay, hook up the batteries this way, what would you basically say was there? You would say there was nothing there, right? Because there can't be anything.
Right.
So Jalapeno's asking if I have a parts list for the coil. Yes. You'll find that in the link in the description of the workshop live stream. If you go to live on my channel tab, the live tab has the rodent coil workshop. It's upcoming. I don't know exactly when the date's going to be, so ignore that date. It's going to be pushed up until I get the frame. It'll be on a Sunday, that's for sure, probably around 7:30 a.m. to late in the evening, Eastern Standard Time. So you can get the parts list from that video. Actually, you know what? Let me just grab that real quick and put it in chat for you. That'd be best. Just for anybody who has ADD and is watching and just wants to grab it real quick. Alright, here is the link to my do-it-yourself guide for the rodent coil, utilizing both the Nunez method and my own method, which is a method of using it as a transformer, a step-up transformer. Yes, you're welcome. And this guide also has some of my theories, along with some of Daniel Nunez's theories, along with some interesting description diagrams that go along with the descriptions. So it is highly recommended for anybody who wants to partake in our rodent coil workshop and build one of these things. They're not that hard, you know. It's just, like I said, it's a little involved, you know. It takes a little time, but it's not difficult. Anybody with a little tinkering skills can build one and hook it up.
But there is. If we look at it, there's a potential that's flowing of 1.5 volts.
Right.
Positive.
So in essence, what you're saying is that the...
Right, so if we look at it this way, we look at a wave of 3, and we keep it in the same phase, and we look at a wave of 1.5. Well, that equals 1.5. Okay, now if we have a wave that's 3, and a wave that's 3 plus, and minus, they're in the same relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So we've altered the frame. We've taken this wave and we've moved this frame underneath this frame.
Right.
So basically what we're looking at is this. Okay? And this equals 0.
So you can have hidden information and a 0.
Yes, you can have hidden information because I could take this wave and expand that wave and expand that wave, and I can then put information in here. Right?
Right.
And then see this 0, when it zeroes out, is going to equal, this 0 is going to contain all this information.
All the substructure.
All the substructure. So that's the way I see differential equations in what I do in my circuits. So if I say to you, okay, I have a transistor here. All right, and I put this wave in it, and I take this portion, right, and I take this portion, and say that these are equal. I'm putting this information in the device, but what's coming out of this end is just the scalar function, which is this, which is going to look like this.
So what you're saying is that's all of the substructure. You send in this wave, you pick off the substructure which is in the 0, which is carried along with that wave.
Right.
And that's what you're picking up.
So suppose we did a sophisticated circuit and there was a device here, and there was a device here, there's a device here. And I pick off all these structures. A, B, and C. Okay, and they both have similar structures, right? And they're all, I decide that I don't want to form a 0. I just want the potential.
Right, right.
So what I do is I take this A and I go A plus B plus C equals some number, right? All right? And then I suppose I don't like this number. Suppose this number's 3. And I say, okay, now what I'll do is I'll take this last potential and I'll take this phase and beat it against this phase and get 2.5.
Okay.
Because the way that's going to work is if I have this potential that's 3 and this potential that's 2, what I have out here is 1.
Right, right.
Along with the 0. Because it's trying to cancel out, but there's this difference in potential. It's the same thing as if you took this battery. So when we talk about inverted circuits in the book and stuff that's coming out, if I have this potential generated with a spike, and this is 300 volts, so we'll just call it a spike, right? And I put this 300 volts to the plus, and I take and invert the transistor to the ground, right? And I come up with some form of switch here. When I close that switch, the difference in potential is across this battery.
Right.
So if this is 12 volts, this is subtract this 300 volts, And that's the difference in potential that's charging the battery.
Across the battery.
So we want just potential and no current.
Right. So in essence, what you're saying here is two things. First of all, you're trying to get rid of the mathematics involved in current because you're not interested in it.
Right, I'm not interested in it.
And the second thing you're trying to do, you're talking about a sort of hidden
Variables.
just to do with the potential difference and the hidden substructure within potential zeros.
Right. See, the whole idea is to hide all the information in the zero.
Right.
So this becomes a sharp transient. It becomes a very sharp, just transient. And so if we really expand that transient out, what we have is all this hidden stuff inside the zero.
Okay, and that's an expansion of the...
Yeah, that's an expansion of this.
Right, okay.
And that's how I see the electronics working.
Right, okay.
And that's how I see the motor working.
Mm-hmm.
I say that you know, this wheel has a north pole. And these are all north.
Mm-hmm.
And we know. And so, but between these two norths is a zero, two zeros, and a south.
Right, right.
See?
Mm-hmm.
So what I want the motor to do is I want it to give it the correct phase to fire. So that's the north. So what happens is the magnet comes by, and this field actually couples like this.
Right,
And this becomes energized.
right. And this is the core of the coil.
Yeah, this is the core of the coil. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've charged this iron and it's at this potential.
Right.
It's charged.
Mm-hmm.
Now the magnet leaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the iron wants to discharge, so it flips.
Right, right.
And that's the correct phase for this transistor to fire, right? And then since it's an attractive motor, since it's in attraction instead of repulsion, what kicks the wheel away is this south.
Right.
That's imaginary. It's really there because you can see it with the magnetic indicator.
Right, right.
And it's just enough. There's no power involved in the machine whatsoever. In other words, there's not any torque being developed.
Right.
It's just a triggering mechanism to catch this energy.
So in essence, what you're talking about is this south is a trigger to get the motion, but
Yeah.
what you're really getting at is coming back to what you're talking about, the hidden information in
Yes,
zeros.
yes.
It's when you pass the zero that you get this hidden
Yes.
information, which is dropping
I
through.
want to combine it into the spike and send that signal to the battery to tell it, recharge.
So in conventional circuits, that all gets chopped off.
Yes, in the conventional circuit, if they see that, they're going to short that out
Right, right.
to protect this device.
And that's shorted out across.
But since I'm taking it off, I'm just catching the spike and sending it to the battery. I don't have to protect anything.
Right, right.
If I want to protect this device, I'm just going to put a neon light here. I'm going to limit it to 90 volts.
Right, right.
And that's exactly the way I see it.
So the mathematics and the workings behind this is simply down to difference of potentials, and that's all you really
That's all I care about is the difference of potentials. I move one potential to either a higher level or a lower level.
So in essence, when you can kind of get confused by plus and minuses. Because
That's why I can use, that's why I can use two identical batteries, because I'm building up the potential to trick one.
Right, right,
See, there is no free lunch. You have to do the work to get it.
right. But once
you understand that fundamental, you can take all your electrical circuits and look at them as a differential and say, gee, I can take a little bit from here, I can take a little bit from here, And think about it, it's all in the same phase, it's all additive. Now I've got this high potential.
Yeah.
And if my potential is too high, I can direct another phase and subtract from the potential because it's out of phase by a lesser degree.
Right, right.
So in essence, I'm looking at a wave that may look like that.
Okay.
Or I'm looking at a wave that may look like that. Now what's the motor wave look like?
Okay. So this is your...
See, this is the actual battery level.
Mm-hmm.
And this little piece, when you see it on the scope that comes down, is in the negative range.
Right.
The device is going negative. It actually wants to become a negative resistor, or a negistor.
Right, okay.
A transistor that's a negistor. So that cools it off.
Okay, okay, okay.
And that's just the way I see it.
Say goodbye to old costly cable TV once and for all. This revolutionary invention gives you access to your favorite channels and movies completely free of charge. Greedy cable...
Introducing PutLocker, an entirely free website with all your favorite movies and TV shows for you to stream for free without the boggle of a tedious bill that is overinflated due to greedy monopolies. Get yours today for free. PutLocker. Hold on, I missed that. It says, the formal session is now over, but removing the mic, John continues the lecture. Ooh. This is an off-the-cuff lecture?
The motor wave, this is the battery level. And then the spike is here.
Oh, but what I mean is when you look at all the spikes together.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're seeing this.
That's right, yeah.
So actually,
So I believe, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's describing an H wave here that you're looking for. And that H shape is produced by maybe like an asymmetrical wave pattern where it's just like spikes and then kind of bumps at the end or the beginning. Interesting.
I'm looking at it as a digital signal. For somebody to build a receiver to pick up the background. That's a real fast device. That's like in the terahertz and beyond.
So would you kind of say that, because it seems to me, if you've got let's take an electromagnetic wave, so you've got a kind of field.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So what you're really looking at is the kind of motion along here.
Yes. Yeah, but this one's longitudinal.
That's right, yeah.
See? This is the EM. And this is the longitudinal.
Because what I was thinking about this, what I showed you, is you have that T field.
Yeah,
in the longitudinal part, and you've got the normal magnetic
Right,
field.
right.
And that's the pressure part.
Right, that's the pressure.
So I'm kind of thinking that that's the natural, these are kind of pressure waves.
These are pressure waves. So what you want to do is build a receiver that tunes into the pressure wave.
Right.
See, it's way beyond light because you have to catch the neutral particles. Then you have to convert them into something to turn them into electrons.
Right.
Because everything you do is electrons.
So in essence, everything that's like a particle nature belongs to the transverse, and this gas is the pressure part.
Yeah. It was short, but that's what he's done.
Suddenly everything becomes clear.
Yeah, because once this light bulb turns on, you'll never forget this light bulb.
Right.
You'll walk around and say, you know what? I've seen some bullshit in my life. But this takes the cake.
Yeah, yeah.
Because this is actually simplicity. This is like saying I have two trees. Do it yourself. Do the measurement yourself. I have two trees. I have one tree here and one tree here. One's a small tree and one's a big tree.
Yeah.
What's the potential difference between the two trees? Well, if you stick a meter in there, you're going to find out. It's a noise.
Yeah,
Nature's full of these potential differences, and they're nonlinear. So guess what? You can't have linear math.
Right.
You have to have nonlinear math.
Right.
This is nonlinear. That isn't a linear signal. You know what?
Again, this idea of nonlinear math goes back to vortex math and the theory that the way that we do math is only getting us 20% of the way in terms of science and technology. If we want to truly understand the universe, we have to explain the universe in terms of the universe's mathematics, which is not linear by any means. Nothing in the universe travels in a straight line. The only exception being radiant energy. But nothing calculable? Anyways, so since nothing in the universe travels in a straight line, we try to quantify our universe, our three-dimensional universe, in a two-dimensional plane. So what I mean by this is the reason why we have irrational numbers, numbers that repeat forever. Because when you're trying to calculate, say, the circumference of a circle on a two-dimensional plane, since nothing actually exists in two dimensions, you're essentially using a number to rectify the solution that is irrational, right? And in vortex math, there are no irrational numbers. There are no irrational numbers in vortex math. So that is very important here. And to understand the secrets of the 369, which I think play very well into Bedini's lecture on electrical circuits here, I think it's very relevant. And if you want to understand the whole picture, you have to understand the picture in terms of how the universe actually is and not how we want it to fit on a neat little paper in order to justify our theories, right?
What comes out of all this is a nonlinear zero.
That explains it really well.
Yeah, you need a nonlinear map.
My work cut out for me.
You do. You're gonna get it.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna sit down in the chair and say the guy's a madman. That's all there is to it. He's a madman, but he showed me how to make this little motor, and it's operating and it's charging this better. Now I want to know why. I want to know why, because it goes against all contrary laws. You can't have a 12-volt battery charge a 12-volt battery. You can divide the charge between them. You can suck them both dry. But you can't have one that's lower than the 12-volt battery charging a 12-volt battery.
Well, I guess, in other words to say, it's probably best to say that in terms of, whenever you talk about a conventional circuit, you talk about the current flow, we use that, we measure that, that's something we can quantify. But in essence, the current is just simply a sort of back reaction to your dipole is disappearing.
The dipole is destroyed by the current.
So
as long as you don't touch this,
right,
this dipole stays. So if every once in a while you want to touch this, right, and you just go, the current didn't have any time to get there. See, this is probably drawing a lot more current than can be measured, except it's so fast, it's instantaneous, that you can't destroy the dipole that quickly. The idea is to make the dipole last as long as you can last,
and get the most work out of it.
So I guess in a way you could say there's like a, with all this substructure, there's a hidden way to look at information and voltage flow, but in terms of when you get rid of the currents, that's what you're left with, and you don't want to use the current because that's destroying everything you're trying to get out within here.
Right. Yeah, you see, if the meter sees a zero, you can't measure the current.
Right.
So therefore, how does the battery charge if you're not measuring the real current?
So you could kind of think of a current as kind of, and everywhere in nature you see that whenever you impose some kind of change or differential, it always tries to balance itself out and make itself balance.
Exactly.
And in this way, it seems like current is what happens to do that. So if you're interested in...
Well, the current slows down. What controls everything is the magnetic field.
Right.
So the bigger the magnetic field, the slower the radiant. It's like a pressure valve for the radiant.
Okay.
You follow me?
Yeah.
The electromagnetic field, the normal field, is just a regulator to keep everything from going pop.
Right. Okay.
You see, in our experiments with the radiant transformer, you have, if you lay out the wire on the ground, say you took this motor wire, you laid it out on the ground, it'd want to oscillate at some unnatural frequency, and there's nothing to slow it down, so the device can't go that fast. Right? So what do? You take the wire and you start to coil it up and coil it up and coil it up, and pretty soon the frequency slows down because the magnetic field is collapsing inward, slowing the frequency down.
Right.
So now, with that frequency, only a few of these radiant sparks are able to get through. But that's enough.
Right. Okay.
So if you come up with some device that can go that fast, you could just have a straight wire in front of you, and it would output everything that's in the heavy side field.
Okay, so here we are demonstrating a retarded driver.
Is that similar to what a Litz wire does in a way?
No, a Litz wire contains the magnetic field in itself.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So what you want to do is when you use these, right, we're talking about just one straight wire.
Right.
And we're talking about this flashlight battery at this end.
Okay.
So if we cause a pulse on this one straight wire, and we had a device that was fast enough to switch that fast, you could capture everything around that wire because the frequency would be so high.
Right.
See, it'd be off the scale in voltage.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about.
Right.
We just found a way to slow it down through a magnetic trigger.
Okay.
All right? And by coiling up our transformers and stuff in these coils, we're just slowing it down. We're more than satisfied to get, 60 pulses a minute of this stuff. That's all we need for the battery.
But potentially there could be a huge amount of stuff that you're not getting, different design you could
Well,
use.
yeah, a huge amount of stuff like well, you didn't actually see it this afternoon, but like when they took those golf cart batteries after charging them, right? Normally they could only run 1 hour at 100 amps.
Right.
All right? These guys did 2.5 hours today. So where did that energy come from?
Right.
What went into the battery that made it last 2.5 hours at 100 amps?
Right.
See, you have to take this. You have to take whatever's in the battery that's a frosted piece of glass.
Right.
And you have to clear it up. So it's like a clear window pane.
Okay.
So in other words, there's no sulfation there. There's no fog on the plate.
Right.
So once you have the full access of the battery, it isn't dying.
Right.
You follow me?
It just keeps that.
It's getting bigger. It's getting better. That fly's bugging me. Did you get all that?
Some of them. Because it really helped when you pulled the mic off. It's fine. You got the mic off.
But, I mean,
eventually I was able to read. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. That's good.
You got it all.
There's a lot there too. I mean, this is so far away from conventional stuff. I can't even pick a conventional book up now thinking this is bollocks.
Well, look, now you understand where I've been for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
It started with beer.
Yeah.
Talk about bizarre.
Yeah.
Forget the fly. I told Rhonda I would be home tonight. Long time doing that, too.
Let's take a look at maybe one more short video and then we'll call the stream. Let's see what we got here. Let's delve into this little treasure trove of gems. Ooh, he's got an entire 53-minute long video on Floyd Sweet's vacuum triode amplifier. Oh, you're tempting me with this one, Nathan. Oh, I clicked it.
No offense, but if you're paying more than...
Whew, he scared me for a minute. All right, here. Oh, Tom Bearden, nice. Maybe we'll watch some of this now and some of this in another stream. I'm not looking to drag this stream on too much longer, but it has been lots of fun, everybody.
A little tour for a demonstration on just how...
I knew it. I had clips of the Floyd Sweet vacuum triode amplifier, and it sounded like Tom Bearden in the background, but I couldn't be sure.
Straightforward.
I guess that's where this is from,
how,
or where that was from. Is this?
Nicely, the vacuum triode is working. So we have a 120 volt fan. As you can see, it's turning at good power. It is.
I believe the the practical guide to free energy devices that I have. I believe it was the vacuum triode amplifier that they described as having 3 vacuum tubes. And one of them, they were all resonating at a specific frequency, probably the second 2 piggybacking off of the first one. But the first one was supposedly, get this, resonating at the frequency of the ether itself, which, again, is, let's remember, ether is DC energy at rest. You know, when that electricity or whatever is at rest and not in motion and not moving from one pressure differential to the other, you know, where does it go? It goes back, it gets down converted or up converted to a higher dimensional plane known as the ether. So I'm interested in finding out what frequency he was resonating that vacuum tube with, you know, to produce that effect. You know, what is the frequency of the ether?
Providing quite a breeze, and it's real usable power. Now we'll turn around, and here, as just coming into view, you see 5 100-watt lamps, ordinary garden variety household lamps, brilliantly lit. So there's 500 watts of very real power here, again coming right out of the vacuum. And you see the assembly of very large meters and show you the kind of power amplification that is being achieved by the vacuum triode. Now we're going to come back in. There's the 500-watt bulbs clear.
So Elijah Tack says, if you know the size of the tube, you can calculate the frequency. Yes, exactly. That's brilliant. I didn't think of that. Wow. No, I'm definitely going to consider that if we ever try to replicate that at some point in the future. Who knows? But that's brilliant. Thank you, Elijah Tack. I appreciate that.
Really illuminated. The power is rock steady. It's a fairly decent sine wave, very nice and steady, and it's 60 hertz. It's right on the button, just as conventional, ordinary power. It's 120 volts, or very close there too, and it's 60 hertz right on the button. It is, however, negative energy that is being produced, as opposed to the normal garden variety
which I
of
think
positive
we
energy.
all know to be
In
cold
the
electricity.
lamps, in the resistive load,
or I suspect,
the negative energy is converted to ordinary positive energy, and that is real heat and real light being radiated away from the lamps. However, while the energy is still in the negative form, in all the circuitry and wires going to the lamp, all of those stay absolutely cool because there is no heating of those circuits. Only in the filaments of the lamp is heat and light produced in the normal sense.
It's okay, Elijah Tech. I really appreciate you for stopping by, and everybody. I appreciate everybody for stopping by in this amazing live stream. It's been really fun again. I appreciate all your guys' support, gentlemen and ladies. If anybody is watching this and hasn't hit that like button or the subscribe button, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. It really helps out with the algorithm. As you can see, we are really, really close to getting 1,000 subscribers. And the channel has kind of slowed down. It kind of scared me a little bit, but I don't think this is the end of Beneficence TV. I think this is just the start. So with your help and hitting that like button, commenting, sharing to all your friends and family, all my amazing content, and some of this awesome forbidden science that we go over, it really helps out, and I appreciate all the shares and comments and support that you guys have shown thus far. It really helps out, and I really appreciate it. So with that, we're going to go back to Floyd Sweet's vacuum triode amplifier.
And so in those resistive loads, we're translating normal negative energy into positive energy. And you can see that is real power, 500 watts, 1/2 of a kilowatt in a resistive load. Travel back over to the fan, and you see that we have a normal AC type load. That's a normal AC fan. Runs very well on this power. Now we'll come back over to the load, and we want to go up and show you some instrumental measurements. We want to show you how much we're actually putting in to the grid signal of the triode. First, we're going to come right in on this meter here and try to give you a close shot of the actual reading of this meter. Okay, and reading the meter, it shows you that we're putting in right at 10 volts. It's oscillating between 9.5 and 10 volts. That 1 is really a 10. It's on the, that's a 10 volt. Okay, we're going over now and show you the amperage that we're putting in, and hold your hats. That 31.2 is actually 31.2 microamps. We're dealing in the microamp scale, and we're putting in 31.2 microamperes of current. We're putting in approximately 10 volts for the input. And so it's very easy to calculate the fact that there's less than 1 milliwatt, actually down around 1/3 of a milliwatt or so, of power actually going in to power the fan and the 500 watt of lamps brilliantly lit. Now we'll go over and show you some more meters coming in on this set of instruments. Let's see if we can get a better focus and get the glare away from us. Looks like we won't get the glare, but there we are. That is a voltmeter, and it shows that we're putting out about 112.5 volts coming out of the vacuum triode. That's the plate voltage, so to speak, that's output by the device. Coming over to the next meter, this is a watt meter, and you divide it by half, and you see it's reading 1 kilowatt, and so this one here, we get on the right meter, it's reading 1 full kilowatt, so divide that by 2.
Hold up a
so
second.
You see that we're putting out 5.
Hold up. Did I hear what I think I just heard?
Looks like we won't get the glare, but there we are. That is a voltmeter, and it shows that we're putting out about 112.5 volts.
That is interesting. So it's not dead on accurate, but what we see with the Rodin coil and the Nunez method open circuit, if you look at my do-it-yourself guide, you can get a diagram of the open circuit Nunez method. And it's a method of maximizing the resonance within the circuit so you get more output. And this is the way that they achieved 10 times output. Well, 10 times voltage output while maintaining the current or slightly increasing the current on the output side. And this kind of over-unity effect is kind of interesting because while it's not exactly 10 times, we do see that range of output for the voltage. It's very interesting. And again, the current is just, it'll maintain or slightly increase. And I'm wondering now if it will increase just based on the load, and there really is no limit to the amount of current except for what the gauge of the wire can handle. That's just a theory that actually just thought about now. So interesting, just interesting. We're making connections here, hopefully.
Coming out of the vacuum triode, that's the plate voltage, so to speak.
So Elijah Tax said, I have wondered if we can only observe microamps because the rest are tunneling. As I have calculated, the electrons will tunnel as frequency and electrostatic potential increase. You know, that's interesting you say tunneling, because tunneling is a phenomenon we see happen with plasmoids and structured little bits of plasma. And somebody just sent me a video that we watched live on stream the other day of them explaining, I think it was called plasmatrons or plastons, and they're basically at the quantum scale little bits of plasma. And I'm wondering, since universe is a fractal, of itself, nothing new under the sun, it's the same old stuff. I'm wondering if it's just a smaller state of plasmoid, at a quantum scale, either affecting electrons or maybe they're electrons themselves. Who knows? Malcolm Bendel's plasmoid unification model describes that everything in the universe down to the microscopic scale is a plasmoid. Elements and molecules form torus shapes.
That's output by the device. Coming over to the next meter, this is a watt meter, and you divide it by half, and you see it's reading 1 kilowatt, and so this one here, we get on the right meter, it's reading 1 full kilowatt, so divide that by 2, and so you see that we're putting out 500 watts of actual measured power. Okay, coming on over, the power factor shows 1 as it will in the resistive load, and of course single phase circuit. You can see now the amperes on this meter being put out by the machine is very clearly, let's give a read on that. We're putting out 4.6 amperes of current. 4.7, a little more precisely, 4.7 amperes of current. And so that is the output current. All of that, the entire output, is being taken from the energy of the vacuum, output by the device, and the grid signal to do that is less than 1/3 of a milliwatt. Less than 1/3 milliwatt signal on the vacuum triode grid, and yet the plate is putting out well over 500 watts of power. 500 watts of the resistive load, And at the same time, you see the fan stirring up a nice breeze.
This new incredible fire torch lighter will burn through literally anything. It will give you fire, no matter what Mother Nature throws at you. This insane electric lighter is the ultimate survival tool. It's like nothing else you've seen before. It's so powerful, it can even burn through metal. And it's fully electric, which means it does not use gas or butane. A brilliant Army engineer named Chris was tasked with creating.
Yes, but it will not maintain the fire in my heart.
This is real, usable power. It's stable. It is
this is
not
my favorite
transient.
part. This is my favorite part.
It is not noise.
Everybody shut up.
And it is not any other kind of spurious effect. This is a real effect. It's all coming from that little tiny box sitting behind the 500 watts of power. Behind the lamps, that little box is putting out all of that power, well over 500 watts, and yet it is receiving less than 1/3 of a milliwatt of input power. This is April the 30th, 1987, at about 10:30 p.m. in the home of the inventor of the very first vacuum triode. This is a most historical occasion. I will show them some more. Okay, now for this second demonstration, here we have our 120 volt fan again, rotating finely, stirring up a breeze. Right behind that you see a 24 volt DC motor. In front of that there is a little bit of a rectifier, a little box here. See if I can get my finger here. This is a rectifier. This is a transformer dropping the AC power down to the 24 volts. And you can see there are two 12 volt lamps in series, brightly lit, showing you that yes indeed we have the full 24 volts. And we're showing that this power can be transformed and can be rectified just exactly like normal positive power, except again the power is very cool in the actual lines and feeder circuits. Only in the actual resistive load do you have translation into normal power, but it can be run through a transformer and stepped down or stepped up. It can be rectified, and we can handle the power just indeed as we do normal power. And you see again at the same time we have 4 of those lamps now lit, and so we have another 400 watts resistive.
Hey Fast Ed, thanks for joining us today on this amazing live stream. Right now we're just going over this awesome video Nathan posted of it's actually the, or I think it's the full video of Floyd Sweet's vacuum triode amplifier. It's a free energy device. So let's check it out.
Load going here at the same time. And if we close up on our little meter here, we'll see that now we're drawing only 29.2, if we get the glare out of there, 29.2 micro amperes. 29.2 microamperes. We're still drawing about 10 volts, oscillating between 9.5 and 10 volts to the input of the grid of the vacuum triode, which is that little box right there behind the brightly lit 100 watt bulbs, now in the lower left of your screen. Again, 4 brilliantly lit, ordinary 100 watt lamps, household lamps. You can see here the 24 volt DC motor. You can see the transformer stepping down the voltage.
Wow, you have an amazing audience here. What wonderful ideas and comments. I should join these discussions more often.
Yeah, Lenny, you should. All right, let's get back to the show. Thanks for that.
The two 12-volt lamps in series so that we have effectively a 24-volt, the resistance for 24 volts applied across them. And in front of that, then, we are rectifying this power to furnish DC power to the DC motor. And so what this demonstration does is that with very little change to the input to the vacuum triode, we can provide a power which is practical. There's plenty of it. It's a very great power gain. It can be transmitted along lines without any heating. It can be rectified. It can be, we can use a transformer to step it up or step it down. It's a very practical, very straightforward type of power to use, even though we're using negative energy in the lines. And then
strip away what you know about trading and take on Wall Street with the transparent strategy that every profitable trader knows. I'm price action expert Thomas Wood with my newest...
Yes, the most profitable knowledge that you can obtain about trading is don't do it. The stock market is a gamble, people. You might have a pretty good idea of your stakes in that gamble, but at the end of the day, it is a lottery. And that lottery is run by 80% of the richest people in the world. Yes, 80% of the stock market is owned by the richest 10%. So if you thought your stakes in the stock market were high, think again.
Characteristic. When you switch suddenly power loads of negative energy, you do not have the big flashing and arcing, because that's a positive energy effect. The arcing effect on these is reversed. In other words, it's a cold arc, an arc of cold, so you don't see all of that stuff and you don't burn out the circuits and all that. You can switch the loads suddenly very easily with normal switches. And so this is a very practical power. You can see again the 120 volt fan. You can see here a normal flat pancake type of 24 volt DC motor. You can see two 12 volt lamps brilliantly lit. You see the rectifier that rectifies the current for the 24 volt DC motor. You can see we're coming through a step down transformer from the 120 volt negative power line. And you can see we're still providing 400 watts of power in the lamps. And of course there wouldn't be any problem with turning the other lamp on. And you have seen, of course, that we're still drawing less than 1/3 of a milliwatt. We're drawing now 29.3 microamperes of current, and we're still sitting at about 10 volts on the grid. 10 volts, 29.3 microamps, the input to the grid of the triode, and you can see 400 watts of power here, a step-down transformer being operated, a pancake motor being operated, and a 120 volt fan being operated, all from less than 1/3 of a milliwatt of power. The rest of that power is coming out of the surging energy of the vacuum, and this little box that you see right here, solid state, no moving parts, is the vacuum triode that's doing this very practical and historical work here on April the 30th, 1987. And now we're focused on the actual little oscillator that's providing that input power. This is a Hewlett-Packard audio oscillator model 201CR. The maximum power this oscillator can put out is only 3 watts when it's at full peak power.
600 ohms.
And it's going out into 600 ohms.
Well, that would be 45 volts if we wanted to use 45. How about using 10 volts?
The maximum voltage that this little oscillator can put out is 45 volts. However, as you can see, we're only using 10 volts, as you can see right here on the scale. So we're using 10 volts of power to the grid, voltage to the grid. Right now we have 29.3 very stable microamperes on the grid, so we still have less than 1/3 of a milliwatt of power on the grid. And from that we're pulling out of the vacuum from cathode to plate. We are gating and controlling well over 400 watts of power. You can see the 4 100-watt bulbs brilliantly lit, and when I get off to the side you'll see just how brilliant they are when the CD readjusts. You see that we're stepping it down through the transformer, lighting the two 12-volt bulbs, going through a rectifier, driving a DC motor which runs fine off negative power, likes it real well, and then the 120-volt negative power is going to the 120-volt fan, which again likes it very well indeed. And so negative power, negative energy taken from the vacuum is very useful and very practical power. This power can be put into production, can be developed into, for example, a reasonable home power unit, say of 15 kW, and you can see that this box, which we showed you a while ago with 500 watts on it, doesn't represent too much of a step-up problem. We're not dealing with very much a magnitude step-up problem. And so our scale-up problem should not be bad at all. I will mention that the little box in the back, the solid state vacuum triode, see if I can get my hand on this. You can see my hand on it. It is not hot. It's solid state, no moving parts, no vibrations, absolutely rock steady and eminently practical. It is not expensive. Ordinary machining, ordinary parts, ordinary type construction can easily build this kind of a power device. As we said, the closest nomenclature for this device is a solid state vacuum triode. Nature itself is providing the river of current that's flowing from a special cathode to a special plate. And we are only putting in a very small control or gating signal to the grid to gate all the other power that you see being consumed right here. This power can be transmitted, it can be transformed, it can be rectified, it runs motors, it runs resistive loads, and it's a very eminently practical type of electrical power, very safe power, and a very clean power that's waiting right now for development and marketing.
Kill the iPhone, you say? Few companies have the guts to kill an iconic, admired, refined, brilliantly conceived, historically significant,
the incredible and historic vacuum triode. Okay, here we are again with the equipment shut down. We'll give you a short tour through what is connected and the major types of meters that we have connected so that measurements can be ongoing dynamically. First of all, behind this card, the little box that you see there is the vacuum triode, invented by Mr. Sparky Sweet. The incredible vacuum triode. Now, we've placed over the triode some small strips of metal so that you'll be able to see parts of the pattern of the magnetic fields surrounding the vacuum triode. And as we come back away from the triode, you see we have a load, which is a bank of 5 100-watt lamps. Can be connected to the 120 volt AC output load, 60 hertz. These are ordinary, common household lamps, resistive load. We have various meters. You see the frequency meter measuring the output of the vacuum triode, and you'll find.
So Sean asked, why don't we have working model today? Has the designing specs been destroyed? Forgive my ignorance, I'm new to this. No, it's okay, Sean. So the vacuum triode amplifier was a secret. Like Floyd Sweet, I believe he tried to patent it, but he held the secret sauce to himself. Some of the components were fake, I believe, in the patent. But he never did release how his device actually achieved over Unity or what it was doing to a point where it could be replicated. So that's where we are right now. We have theories, different witnesses and stuff. And Tom Bearden, and again, let me emphasize here that this is Tom Bearden talking. Tom Bearden is a PhD nuclear engineer, retired lieutenant colonel of the U.S. Army. He's the CEO. He was the CEO of CTEC and the director of Association of Distinguished American Scientists. Okay, this is not somebody that needs to be taken lightly. We should listen to Tom Bearden, what he has to say. And what he has to say is Floyd Sweet's device is taking energy from the vacuum. It's outputting more energy than it's taking in. And it's possible, and it's not that hard to understand as long as you're open to these concepts, which mainstream science seems to shut down.
And that's a very rock stable.
This was in 1987. This is before I was born. They had devices like this. And even before then, you know, with Tesla, it's incredible. Absolutely astounding.
60 hertz. Here are some lines. This is the input line right here to the vacuum triode grid. Nominally 10 volts RMS coming into the grid, 60 hertz, and as you will later see, very, very low amperage will be measured on the microammeter that measures the amperage going into the grid input. So it'll be 10 volts plus whatever this instrument measures. The next instrument here is the voltmeter itself that measures the grid input. On this one we'll see the 10 volt input. The input signal itself is coming from an audio oscillator, which is a sine wave oscillator. It has a maximum output of 3 watts. That's all you can possibly get out of it. 45 volts into a 600 ohm load. That is what we're using for the input, and as you will see, there will be far less than that 3 watts going into the vacuum triode.
I'm only going to play this for a few more minutes and post the link in the chat for this is on Nathan's channel, Old Man Builds. If you haven't subscribed to Old Man Builds or Beneficence TV, this channel, I highly suggest you subscribe now for more revolutionary content. Yeah, I'm going to end the stream soon. We'll play a couple more minutes and then I'll end. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole with this one. Again, as I've said before, this device has, we don't know how it works exactly. Floyd Sweet never released the secret sauce of how it actually works. He gave us a general idea, and Tom Bearden's description is accurate, but it doesn't tell us how it's actually achieving what it's doing. So I'm going to play a few more minutes, and then I'm going to end the stream. Again, the stream was amazing. It was so fun. I appreciate everybody from stopping by. 99% reasons why they wouldn't want to shut down. Yeah, money. And I mean, I don't blame them. If you're, spending so much time, energy, and resources into, inventing something, I'd want to get something out of it too. But at the same time, the science behind it has to be open sourced. It's for the benefit of everybody. It's for the benefit of humanity that the science behind over Unity devices and 0-point energy specifically is disclosed. Sean says, they inspire me to push the boundaries and not get held back by conventional wisdom. Exactly. Very well put. Very well put. 100%. Yes. Don't be boxed in by
then
the
here
barriers
are the
of
triode
conventional
output
wisdom.
cables going to the instrumentation and then around behind the back to the load, to the lamps. We will be feeding a 1 kilovolt, 1 kilovolt ampere, 120 volt kVA, 120 volt transformer, has dual 24 volt secondary. The loads will be two 12 volt lamps in series, plus a rectifier, plus a 24 volt DC motor. Here is the rectifier right here, coming from the output transformer with the two lamps in series across the 24 volt output of the rectifier, and with a 24 volt DC pancake motor, 1/8 horsepower, 2000 RPM, which will be energized. Here you see a voltmeter which reads the voltage on the rectifier output. And then we will have a standard 120 volt AC fan load also connected to the output of the vacuum triode. Coming on back around now to finish the instruments, we see a bank of instruments here. We have first of all a voltmeter that reads the voltage of the output of the triode. Then we have a kilowatt meter that measures the actual power output of the vacuum triode. We take a look at the phase. You'll see that that's really single phase current and everything's in phase. Then the amperes being put out, or the current being put out into the load by the vacuum triode. And finally, coming around here, we have an oscilloscope which will be set up across the output of the vacuum triode so that you can look at the 60 hertz output waveform. We will show you the waveform on the scope. And that completes the primary instrumentation, with the exception of the frequency counter here, where we actually show that it really is a 60 hertz frequency output. And so Mr. Sweet will now turn on and energize the equipment, and we'll take you through another tour.
Alright guys, I'm going to end the stream here. This was amazing. This was really fun. I really appreciate everybody for stopping by. Here, I'm going to put my merch link for anybody who wants to support the page or just wants to look cool. We got lots of fun merch. Oh, wrong link. Let me delete that real quick. All right, here is the merch link, Streamlabs. It's my merch page. You can find a lot of fun stuff there. We got posters of the plasmoid unification model that I sell at cost. You know, I'm not making any money off of it. I just want you guys to have access to some of that stuff. But if you want to support the channel, I suggest ordering a t-shirt. They're really fun. And we have fun mugs and also stuff like pants and all sorts of fun stuff.
Thank you all very much for your support for our channel. It's been a great live stream, and I know I'll definitely be coming back for more.
Yeah, thanks, Lenny. Definitely come back the next stream. We love having you here. And if anybody has any questions on how to use Lenr-Bot over here, feel free to reach out, comment, send me an email, whatever. beneficencetv@gmail.com. Yeah, it was fun, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for stopping by. Peace.
Please consider subscribing and hitting the. Remember, if you like my content, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button on my videos. Comments and any form of engagement dramatically help us break through the YouTube algorithm. I also have a website with research on the Thunderstorm engine, plasmoid technology, and do-it-yourself guides for Malcolm Bendel's retrofit, courtesy of Jordan from Alchemical Science and the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. Check out my store for exclusive merchandise along with our forum, where you can post questions, share videos, and join in the community to help destigmatize all forms of forbidden knowledge. Don't forget to check out Jordan's channel Alchemical Science and Bob Greenier from the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project YouTube channel. They're on the cutting edge of cold fusion technology. More